That woman over there keeps staring at me.
Do you know her?
No.
Well, here we are doing something we haven't done in a while. Except with Dune Part 2, I guess. Here in Movie Night Extravaganza, we're less worried about getting in front of whatever the newest movie is out than most movie shows probably are. We're here to have fun, talk about movies we usually enjoy, and less worried about getting a hot take or opinion out there before the discourse is calcified. And we are less interested in panning films and discussing the ones we find genuinely worth seeing. The discourse on Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Kinds of Kindness, coming just months after Poor Things netted 11 Oscar nominations and 4 wins, including Emma Stone's Best Actress win, is very much up in the air. The rollout for Kinds of Kindness is ongoing.
Skinny men are the most ridiculous thing there is. We've gone over this before. You must put on a few pounds. I told you that last time.
So far, it's pretty polarizing out there, with many critics praising Kinds of Kindness for Yorgos' return to form as a misanthropic, funny, and experimental filmmaker and screenwriter, and others who seem to have taken the cruelty displayed on screen almost personally. But I do think that it's important to preface this on an extremely basic level. Kinds of Kindness is an anthology, even more specifically a triptych fable. There are 3 separate stories which take place in the same universe, but are not directly related except by the inclusion of one character. I think that it can be a lot harder to review anthologies than other forms of narrative filmmaking. The short films in an anthology inevitably must fall into the same rankings or scales as more cohesive singular piece as one overall unit. And yet they must also be compared to each other within that unit, and I think getting multiple stories written, even possibly at different times to reach perfect parity, is an impossible task for any filmmaker or screenwriter. So anthologies are by definition uneven pieces, I'd say. Kinds of Kindness will inevitably be compared to Poor Things as they're so intertwined. Yorgos Lanthimos is a fan of collaborating with the same people repeatedly, and Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley are all here as returning stars. Yorgos has also chosen to keep collaborating with Robbie Ryan, the cinematographer behind Poor Things and The Favorite. Yorgos' editor, also named Yorgos, has been the one creative force he's retained for every single movie he's made. Jerskin Fendrix, who composed the score for Poor Things, also did the music for Kinds of Kindness. One of Yorgos' most recent central collaborators, however, is missing, which might say more than any of the people he invited in. After collaborating with the playwright Tony McNamara on 2 of his biggest recent successes, The Favorite and Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness is co-written not by McNamara, but by Ephesus Philippou, who co-wrote Dogtooth, Alps, The Lobster, and Killing of a Sacred Deer with Yorgos previously. And whether it's returning to his old writing partner or the experimental and extremely off-putting nature of this latest film, the film has been noticed by many fans of Yorgos' work as a return to his much more unsettling and less mainstream Dogtooth era.
Oh, thank you so much. Will you do me a favor? Will you just try this scarf on? It took me ages to pick it out. There are actually 4 that I liked, and I'm just curious to see if I made the right choice.
Wow. It's beautiful. I love it. I don't think it really goes with what I'm wearing today, though.
Oh, I think it goes perfectly.
Nothing about Yorgos Lanthimos' career has been preordained or could have been predicted. His first 5 films were not even in English, they were in Greek. They were mainly low-budget experimental psychological dramas. Kinds of Kindness has been noted as a return to that style for Yorgos. He said the budget is now in the millions of dollars, not the 250,000 euros of Dogtooth or the 97,000 euros of Alps just over a decade ago. The budget for Kinds of Kindness was $15 million, which is small by comparison to the $35 million budget for Poor Things. The mainstream success of Poor Things followed an increasingly popular British and American following for The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and The Favorite. Yorgos has benefited immensely from the rise of the A24 phenomenon, which purchased the distribution of The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer in North America. In 2022, even before Poor Things was released, Yorgos pitched Kinds of Kindness, then called RMF, and had it greenlit. But anthologies can be a tricky business, and just by default, the stories told within a full-length anthology feature are usually there because they're a good premise, but not one that a filmmaker wants to stretch into a full-length movie on their own. And Kinds of Kindness is 3 parts: The Death of RMF, RMF is Flying, and RMF Eats a Sandwich feel like premises that would have been out of place worked into a full-length film. Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley are joined in this anthology by Jesse Plemons, Chau, Joe Alwyn, and Mamoudou, Athie. The cast appears in all 3 stories as different characters. The only connecting thread, RMF, which I don't think stands for Real Motherfucker, is played by another guy named Yorgos. Where does he keep finding them? Each of the 3 parts took around 3 weeks to film back-to-back, as opposed to a shoot like Poor Things, which took half of 2021 just to do principal photography. Since these are separate parts, I do think that it would be helpful tonight to discuss them separately before discussing the film in its entirety. The Death of RMF, like Yorgos and Filippo's 2009 Dogtooth, is a story of control and domination as Jesse Plemons plays Robert Fletcher, a man whose boss, Raymond, played by Willem Dafoe, controls every aspect of his life, from what he and when he eats, to what he reads, to when he has sex with his wife, played by Chau.
Good afternoon, Robert. Don't just stand there, sit down. Were you waiting long?
No, 15 minutes or so.
Your hair's nice like that. Don't get it cut. Let it grow a little longer, and you've lost more weight, I think.
However, as the story darkens, and Raymond orders him to kill a man named RMF, who has agreed to be killed, Robert Fletcher begins refusing orders, leading to his delicately constructed life collapsing around him. Emma Stone plays Rita in this one, whose life is also controlled by Raymond, and who has also been ordered to kill RMF. Real motherfucker. This is the most straightforward of the 3 chapters, and has been used extensively to promote the film. I'm actually genuinely impressed that Jesse Plemons got himself back down to Breaking Bad weight here, just so Willem Dafoe can lecture him about needing to gain a few pounds. The second segment, and I'd personally argue the most uneven, RMF is Flying, has Jesse Plemons playing a cop named Daniel, whose wife Liz, a marine biologist played by Emma Stone, went missing at sea.
I didn't know you smoked, Liz.
I don't. I've never smoked. Can you believe that? I've never even tried.
When she is rescued by RMF in a helicopter and returns home, Daniel begins to become suspicious and paranoid that Liz is not his wife. After being stranded on a strange beach, only Liz and one of her colleagues lived, and her colleague's memory is blank. Liz's feet have grown, so she no longer fits in her shoes. Come on, man. And her interests and habits have all changed.
She asked me to fuck her in my uniform, then it hit me.
In trying to prove that his wife isn't his wife, Daniel begins to lose it, leading to a violent incident which gets him put on pills and treatment. The violence and brutality accelerates in the scenes where body parts are cut off, and this is probably the most grotesque and over the top of the 3. The third part, RMF Eats a Sandwich, is the most fleshed out of the 3, I think, and the least reliant on the type of grotesque, over-the-top violence that exists throughout this movie in all 3 parts.
My name is Rebecca King. I am 29 years old. I majored in literature and now work in the human resources department of a multinational company. But that's not important. My sister Ruth, she's a veterinarian. Her clinic is on Kenneth Avenue, number 18. My sister and I are twins. I think my sister is the one that you're looking for.
Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are here as Andrew and Emily, 2 members of a strange sex cult. The cult is run by Willem Dafoe in a Speedo and his wife, played by Chau. I think the part that goes a long way into fleshing it out is that it revolves around a prophecy. The cult believes that their messiah will be the living sister of a dead twin and will have the power to bring the dead back to life.
We are looking for something, actually, a nice, spacious, affordable apartment. I can't quite understand what it is you want
Listen.
from us.
Emily, here's Ruth's card. On the back is my address and phone number. If you met her, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you.
They also believe that having sex with people outside of the cult will lead to contamination.
To sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
They plan to put their messiah on a luxury super yacht, a nice boat, but being trapped at sea as basically a circus freak. Margaret Qualley plays a set of twins in this one, after playing Raymond's young sugar baby wife, and then the wife of Daniel's police partner in the other ones. Hunter Schafer makes a cameo too, in one of the few instances of an actress only appearing in one of the stories in a pretty sizable role. However, unbeknownst to the sex cult leaders at first, Emily keeps being pushed into contact with her husband, played by Joe Alwyn, who is a collectible appraiser and a very weird psychiatrist in the other two, and her young daughter, who she's abandoned to search for this messiah. The connecting line between these three stories is the character of RMF, who is killed and then sits in the morgue as a search is made for a resurrectionist. However, the use of the same ensemble of actors in every story, the similarity of the surroundings, the hospital, the morgue, the houses, and even the dialogue, which repeats the same phrases like kindness and cruelty, words like fish, meat, and fruit, and many different terms in different contexts throughout the film, gives the entire universe a nightmarish quality in the same way that you see the same familiar faces over and over again in dreams, even if their stories are different. So, after picking each story apart separately, we can talk about the whole thing at the end of the stream and try to parse it all out. In summation, though, I hope that we can tackle this anthology on its own terms, as it begs to be looked at that way, even as the task has been made far more difficult by the runaway success of Yorgos' last couple projects.
Ow! What the heck was that?
Tonight's show is brought to you by Yabiga. A Balkan Rakia spirit, go to yabiga.com to order a bottle tonight. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Jay Underworld, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Christina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch, and send her a coffee. KT Baldassaro is an actress, director, and writer who co-wrote and directed and also starred in Girl in the Basement, along with appearing in quite a few horror movies. You can also catch her voice acting in the scripted podcast series, The Starwell Foundation, an audio drama set in the city of superheroes, wherever podcasts are listened to, and her new film podcast, What If I Don't Like It? New episodes bi-monthly. She's also on TikTok at Movie Runtime. I, of course, am your host, who moonlights as a collectibles appraiser and the guy who takes money at the morgue to let you do whatever with the bodies, Forrest Miller. I remember when characters could get by on the income from having one role in a movie.
It's like the gig economy, right?
It's funny that you say that because they would have been paid individually for each different character. That is a union rule. You can't double them up.
This is one of the first ones he really filmed in the U.S. I think usually he goes to England or Greece or France or something like that. So there really are straight up union rules. He filmed the entire thing in New Orleans, which this is the least New Orleans movie, the least.
Wow, I never would have guessed that. Yeah, ever. Yeah. There's no way. Yeah.
Oh no, I guessed on the streets.
The entirety of it is just different parts of New Orleans, apparently.
I have a lot of interesting casting info too for this movie.
Okay.
Well, let's do that kind of stuff at the end. I want to kind of go through this one, each story one by one, because there's 3 stories in this. The Death of RMF.
It's a format. It's like we're a serious show or something. Crazy. It's almost like it's been around for a while.
And RMF eats a sandwich, and you know what I mean. That's so those are the 3 ones. And I guess starting off with the Death of RMF, this is the most Yorgos like Dogtooth of the three stories. I think I don't know if any of you guys have seen Dogtooth, but it's another movie about domination and control. And in
it's about power dynamics. Yeah.
And in this, Willem Dafoe is Jesse Plemons' boss, who controls every aspect of his life, and to an insane degree.
Story of my life with me and my mom.
It does have a paternal feeling about it.
Christina's life is more like Dogtooth, but she hasn't seen that.
Do tell.
But so that's the first of these three stories, and anyone who wants to give their thoughts on it, I've had Sweet Dreams Are Made of These like as a song in my head for fucking 4 days straight, going in circles over and over again, and I think that is a perfect song for this movie to start, because dreams play such a big role. It almost feels Lynchian in that way.
Overused as a term, but it is like you mentioned, actual dream logic, which is to say that it doesn't really make sense. You see, again, if you take all of the three parts as a whole, people playing different roles is a thing that happens in dreams. People recur, but they're not the same as they were before. Yeah. There's no explanation given behind it. I think it actually is very, very astute here, but not in a way that you normally see outside art house movies, right? Yeah. Which is kind of.
I feel like this is an art house movie, though. Just because it's getting into the mainstream doesn't mean it is not still art house. I had to go to my local art house to see it.
I think I went to the same one.
Yeah, our local, it's the only one that's playing it.
Yes.
I think it's interesting.
That's interesting because the mall opened up with it.
Amazing.
But
what a time to be alive.
On the day I saw it was the first day that the mall had it playing. And it was Regal Cinema. So Regal Cinema, I feel like has more options than a lot of the other. I think, because I've seen some shit I remember I saw Sorry to Bother You at Regal Cinema. It's mainstream enough, but independent enough that it's I wouldn't expect it to be playing, let's say, at the movie theater in New Paltz, where they have 4 movies at a time, and it's whatever it's Furiosa. It's cause I went and checked what they had, and it was all just the most whatever everyone's the biggest film distributor.
Bad Boys 7 or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, but I think that we're also at a position where what does an indie movie mean now, right? Because A24 is technically speaking an indie movie distributor still, right? But they're able to get things not only in theaters, but they get them in the zeitgeist, whether it's for the way a movie actually is supposed to be, or a completely misleading ad campaign, and I'm thinking of Civil War here, but to a certain degree, you would not have any idea what Kinds of Kindness is about based on the preview. How would you do a preview for this movie that would show you what's happening?
I didn't even know it was vignettes until Forrest told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's like, what is this movie even about? And I'm like, this, you know how a lot of trailers they give away the premise of the movie, or they mislead at times, with the Abigail horror movie, but I was watching, all the trailers and stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck this movie's about. But when I see it, I'll still probably won't figure it out, but we'll try.
Yeah, but how would you have notes? All right, so again, I like that we're taking it vignette by vignette, piece by piece, right? But even with there being 3 separate stories that are entirely different in scope and scale, and by the way, as a fan of the bring back the 90-minute movie, I would actually be totally fine with having segment 1, which is what we're ostensibly talking about, be its own movie. I would have been more into that than having this as an anthology.
Let me read what because there's always a brief synopsis of the movie, on fucking Google or whatever it is. This is 3 stories revolve around a man who tries to take control of his own life, a policeman whose wife seems like a different person, and a woman who searches for someone with a special ability. That's all the information that when you're, if you Google it and you're like, oh, I wonder what information this movie's about. That's the synopsis that, Google gives you on the front page. It's all.
And maybe because I like to watch horror, and horror has a lot of anthology stuff in it, it didn't really bother me at all. I do really like this format and would love to see more of this format, because Yorgos is so divisive that even if you really hated one particular story, you at least got a wipe and then you could try again. So it felt like stick around for the whole damn thing. You might connect in different places, because it's definitely going to try you in different places.
Let me tell you, 4 people sitting, the 3 people sitting behind me, and the random girl who went to the movies alone, which shout out to her,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I did that too. But I'm saying, like, shout out to her. I don't think she knew what she was like.
Did you talk to her afterwards?
No, they all left.
She left before it was over.
They left. That was the point. That was the point he was getting to.
I'm not.
My sister.
I'm not in the habit of talking to random people after I go to the movies. I just go and I watch it. but I'm just saying. So the 3 people behind me that were laughing for most of it at one point got up at the same time and kind of walked out, and then I went to the bathroom and came back, and the woman that was sitting in the same row as me was gone. And so like, it's like, well, maybe she got kidnapped or something, but no, but like, so it's like one of those things where
better bladder control, she'd be okay.
I don't think that
This ain't Oppenheimer.
I don't think that I'm trying to think of movies that I've seen where people have gotten up and walked out. And it's not like the theater was packed. Like it really was not.
I had seven walkouts when I went to see it. 7,
Okay.
including my husband, who was there with me, left and went and sat in the car for the rest of it.
But
my sister was on her phone the rest of the time. I was like, oh.
Well, it's just interesting looking at this movie as a follow-up to Poor Things, which I probably had watched.
Well, hold on. Okay, we throw like 3 points out. Can I get on one of them or no? Or are we just gonna move on without doing that? So I want to go back to the original point of it being an anthology. Anthology is like working better for these kinds of things, for challenging material. Cool. Put it on streaming. This would kill on streaming because then people would be able to, especially if they episodically did it, like put out one. Holy shit, that was nuts. Can you imagine? Like, that's so crazy that happened. What do you think the next one is going to be like? Oh, completely different. Like that would have really benefited this form. And I almost never say that. I say that a lot of things, if they were done today, like something like an Until the End of the World or something, would be episodic, quote unquote, streaming content now, and for better or for worse. This would actually, I think, benefit this. For the true freaks, people like me, could just watch them all at once and be like, "Wow, that was fucking crazy." But to
piggyback what you're saying, Conan, is how so many films are dropping in theaters. And then, like, next week, they're on to streaming. Like, I'm kind of hoping that this happens with this movie as well. Because I think, it, like you said, it would do well with streaming.
Like, I think that there are precedents for it. And I just don't think Yorgos I think, considers himself, like, a filmmaker, right? And like, it's like the thing that, like, no, I want to be in movies. Cool, but people don't go to the movies for the same reasons that they used to.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
They want to see epic, big, spectacular, not some art. Like, people don't go to the theater anymore to watch something that's artsy and a little niche and a little out there.
I know.
I know. I would have enjoyed it. Deadpool Wolverine to come out, okay?
Yeah. Which I'm also looking for that.
Or they go because they were online.
If you were able to kind of absorb each story in its fullness instead of being like, whoa, that was crazy, and now you're being assaulted by something totally different that is like also has the same. I get that that's like the artistic intention too. The artistic intention is to overwhelm. That is absolutely the point of the movie. And you're either into that or you're not. I'm into it, but I was like, God damn, that was a swing.
It's kind of being worse than Beau is Afraid.
From a stress standpoint, I know, right?
Yeah, like Beau is Afraid 5 more times, no problem. This one, even one more time, and I think I would have thrown up.
Yeah. No, it's.
I know. There's a
it's
woman
a lot,
in the
and
theater
I loved
when
it,
was
but
watching
it's a lot.
There was a woman in the theater when I was watching, just laughed the entire time, which I thought was great.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying it wasn't valid. I'm just saying the emotional intensity was so much that I had to like expel.
There was a big laugh in the theater when Jesse Plemons and this gets to the doing it story by story, the Death of RMF one. There was a big laugh in the theater when he walks out in that really stupid, looking like it's like a fucking green screen costume with the he was wearing the pink when the whatever.
Oh yes,
Willem
the
Dafoe
turtleneck.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is literally dressing him, telling him to do stuff with his hair, and he walks out and is after he starts out having a car crash, and it's like, holy shit, like you've really been thrown into this movie, and he walks out the next day wearing this pink stretchy fucking shirt and pant, like this outfit he wears to the office, and there was a huge laugh at Jesse Plemons because he had like a 1920s guy chest almost.
I have a real interesting thought on the comedy in this particular piece. I think people in my audience laughed harder than they normally would have for the context of the joke, simply because it was
so uncomfortable.
As a relief in the moment. And so people were guffawing over simple little like bits that were just like, oh my God, a moment to let go. So it was very thoughtful how they did that.
I laughed a lot, but I have an incredibly dark sense of humor, so
Yeah,
take it that what you will.
Yeah, but the intensity of the laughter, I think, was much bigger.
Right, because it's like, this is all you're gonna get. Like, this is the only like release valve for the pressure. You're
Which
gonna
is
get.
why you should maybe see it in a theater, because you can have that kind of group, like, oh, we're all in this.
Yeah,
and then we might leave halfway through. Like
It's hard to say. It's like I love and I hate. I'm two wolves in one body.
So, but again, I'm gonna hammer home the point, and nobody has to agree with me. I actually think that 80 minutes as a runtime for a movie is fantastic. More of that. I watched the was it a Czech New Wave movie Daisies last night, which was, I'm glad I watched it. I couldn't tell you if I even liked it or didn't. The visuals were astounding. Some of the editing stuff looks like TikTok today, right? Which almost like denigrates it. But like it was done like in this time period that like none of that kind of stuff was done. So it was groundbreaking as a movie. But it was like 72 minutes. And which was honestly a little bit long for this film, which is ostensibly plotless. It's like these two chicks running around doing stuff and eating and like grifting dudes and whatever. And there really wasn't much of a plot. But that said, I was like, oh, cool. I would not have been able to do 2 hours of that. Like I would have been chewing my arm off to get away. You know what I mean? And for this, like 80 minutes of that first, again, we're talking about the first part, right? He's got this weird dom sub professional relationship with Willem Dafoe, and like there's a lot of like weird sexual politics and stuff going on with it.
Living the dream.
And I just think that like 80 minutes is like, that's great. If that had been the movie, awesome. Like if this had been 3 separate movies, or again, as we mentioned before, had been like released on a streamer and done like as a, hey, this is a triptych, this is an anthology. The Guillermo del Toro horror one, right?
Cabinet of Curiosities or something.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect example, because you had like what's her face who did Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, and you had Cosmos Panthos and like these very different like people come in and bring these very different stories, and it worked. No. It worked. It worked because you could engage with it and think about it, and maybe even discuss it with like people that you know, and then move on to the next one. So if you're a full freak, you can just dive into all of them and deal with it. But
a perfect movie that does something like that, and it is people that do consider themselves filmmakers with like a lowercase f for like the Coen Brothers did The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and they put that right onto Netflix, and then you had the six. Even though it was one cohesive movie that lasts, I think 2 hours and 20 something minutes, if I'm not mistaken, you could skip between each story, right? Like
you could engage with the chapters where you want it to be, and believe me, I'm the first one to be like look, the average viewer or art consumer is given too much power and too much deference to their individualism. But like for something as challenging as this, I think you'll have more monoculture, whatever's left of the balkanized monoculture cachet, if you are given in a situation where people that maybe are more sensitive to these kinds of things can take it in smaller doses.
Yeah, and there's also stuff like they did the After Dark Film Festival for a period of time in the 2008 to 2006, where they would do a bunch of films, and you could buy a block ticket or buy one ticket, and you could maybe make these films out in 3, where like, oh, come see 1 today, come see 2 tomorrow, whatever. Well, it's a smaller ticket for each segment of it, but it is an overarching thing. And then even Wes Anderson did those Rodal stories on street. So there's people with
which I liked way better than the last full length he did, frankly, personally.
I loved. Several of those were quite good. So it's not even like
he's well suited to the format. Actually, he's good at it. His dolls move across the screen very nicely.
What I was going to say though to your comment about the 87-minute movie you watched, Dogtooth, which I watched for this episode, I tried to go back and see some of Yorgos' older stuff. 97 minutes, and so that's like a perfect. Perfect.
And were you thinking like I needed more of that by the end of it? Probably not, right?
No, but it's interesting that So I thought that the two budgets were interesting because Dogtooth they made that for $250,000, 250,000 euros, right? Like it was Greece. But then you watch this is 15 million.
Wait, they did it for food?
Huh?
What? They did it for euros?
Move on.
All right. But for 250,000 euros.
What?
And, you know,
We need a Price is Right losing noise when Andy makes a terrible joke and it bombs. It's like,
the funniest part is I get what he was going for. It just was probably the least funny joke I've ever heard.
All right, let's tag it with some cruelty, Yorgos. Yeah, good idea.
Talk about that laughing to relieve stress.
But no. But
that's what I do on this show every day. Am I right? Hey.
So this is $15 million. Which
Yeah, that's
still a small cut of what Poor Things cost. I mean, you know, much longer shoot, obviously, much more intensive.
Lots of cars getting wrecked in this.
Yeah, but like. Andy left to go work on this material. But yeah, so much. So this is
the costuming in this, the cinematography, the editing post on Poor Things is going to be half the budget right there. But yeah.
And it also the entirety of I think the film shoot was from August to January just for principal photography, whereas this one they shot it back to back to back. Each one was 3 weeks. They slotted 3 weeks through. Yeah. So each time they would do that, and they would move on, and they didn't.
And everybody playing different characters too. Like that's.
and they gave them that chance to like, all right, well, we're working on this one now, and then we're gonna work on the next one and the next one. I mean, the turnover time definitely crazy, but like it's good that it's not you know, it's good they didn't try to do all of it at the same time. Like, it was
we wouldn't have worked with Plemons' hair because he has the long to short, so they had to do it in that order, right?
That's right. Yeah,
unless they want to wig him up, but that's a whole budget thing. I wanted to go back to a point that Forrest.
There was no money left for the wigs. Yeah.
no wig money at all. Forrest, you made a point at the very beginning about it being so dreamlike, and I'm glad that you said that because I had gone into this having just watched Dream Scenario the night before. And so I thought, like, maybe I'm in this kind of bias where I'm thinking it feels like a dream because I just watched a whole movie about how weird dreams feel.
Yeah.
And in Dream Scenario, people start to take incredibly personally the dreams that they have with the Nicolas Cage character. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, people taking so personally this movie because maybe it feels like a dream to them. And there's this like wall missing.
There does seem to be like a specific kind of like animosity directed at this film where people are like, this movie was made to piss me off, like kind of review where it's like, well, hold on. First of all, you're not that important.
Yeah.
Secondly, no, it wasn't.
Why do people do that? They're like,
it was not only just directed at this movie. I saw this one review that they were promoting the fuck out of online, like it popped up in my Facebook feed, that was directed as an open letter to Emma Stone. Emma Stone, you deserve better than Yorgos Lanthimos.
What, like she's a hostage or something? She's a what the fuck?
She's producing these movies too. She has a choice.
I didn't bother to read it because it was paywall, and I was like, I'm not gonna. But
and it's idiotic. Why would you read the dribblings of a mad person?
But I
saved that for the screen for watching Yorgos Lanthimos.
Like the idea of writing your review as an open letter, like to a person. Like,
it's an open letter.
Look, all right. You deserve better than this, which I would argue she does not, considering she just won, Best Actress.
Yeah, she literally won an Oscar.
And vividly, everybody was saying this is a new career height for her, winning fucking Poor Things, and being able to produce it, and being able to, choose what she was doing on the set. She was so involved in the making of that movie. It's like, I think she's right where she needs to be.
Yeah, she's doing this. She's doing The Curse. She's in her freaky freak period, and we're here for it. It's great.
I'm so here for it. Although I do think that Forrest had a point in the chats when we were all chatting earlier about how the sex scene in the second vignette may be a big fuck you to whoever was upset about the sex from Poor Things.
Oh, it 100% was.
My sister, we were
huge laugh from me, by the way, when that came on.
Yeah,
I know,
that's what he wants to watch. I thought the
I heard one guy who was like, I think, like, I don't know why, it seemed like an older, like potentially religious fellow was just like, oh, at the end, and it's just like so dismayed by it.
Four of them were overacting it, and there's this one point where it flips back to the screen. I rewatched it on fucking there was like a ripped version of it online. I was like, I missed enough of it that I can't. I paid for my ticket. I went and I saw it. You know what I mean? But like,
does it come with a second previewing, sir?
Exactly.
So I watched it. And there's this one thing that I even missed the first time where Jesse Plemons he's literally like he's like fucking with Emma Stone on one hand and then getting head from Margaret Qualley on the other hand, and it lingers on it for 1 second, and you just hear and then it puts to the fucking guy's I can't pronounce the guy's name, but he pronounced to that guy's face, and that's when he's like, hey man, could you maybe turn this down? It's so fucking hard to watch.
It's so funny though. Like I was losing it. I mean, so because it's so like because it's set up like, oh, I miss her so much. I just want to see this thing that reminds me of her.
It's an impossible situation.
And he goes, can we just watch that video one more time? That part of it, and then he goes. They pause for a second, and the whole conversation is really awkward. Like, I don't think that would be a good thing for you to do. And he's like, but you saw the pictures of her by the reef, right? Like, you liked those. And they're like, yes, we saw those pictures. And that's when he fucking starts crying. And it's like, look at my like wife's vacation or whatever, like work pictures. And then it's like, you do not expect that it's about to just be them all switching.
The weird thing is, I actually had the thought go through my head of like, what if it's a sex tape?
Only you, Andy. Only
wow.
You. I feel like the reason why the second one was so effective, and it's basically a body horror story. It's very tense. Is because you do not know what the hell Yorgos is going to do. His script could go literally anywhere at any moment, and that particular story had me the most like, I don't think I can breathe. I feel really uncomfortable. I think I'm going to have a panic attack, but also I'm laughing a ton, but also I'm going to have a panic attack.
Yeah.
That's hard to do in horror.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a certain type of tension building that, you know, like most people wouldn't dare even attempt, let alone pull off in like multiple vignettes, right? Because going back, because essentially we're talking about the first one, right? That like the tension sort of like, well, what is this like? What is this relationship? You see that he's getting gifts, like the McEnroe tennis racket, and like you're like, what is this? Like you're like is this just like this guy is like what kind of favors? Like, is this like a consensual thing? Like, you're just the whole time it reminded me a little bit of Secretary, which I really like that movie. But like how it kind of kept you uneasy about like, is this power dynamic cool or
anywhere?
Not? Yeah, and like it could go like exactly very, very wrong. Could go a couple different ways, right? And then when it just keeps escalating, and then again, when they start wrecking the cars, I think that's when some of that budget comes in, because it's like, oh no, we're gonna have to do that one again. Okay, with it, sure. But I think that it's cool that we just don't get that dynamic tension between two male characters almost ever in movies.
Yeah,
plenty of male dynamic. Don't get me wrong, but like not
the
that
chemistry between Plemons and Willem Dafoe was just amazing. Like it was just, you know, you didn't know what it was, and they didn't really explain it either. Like the more they told you, the more you're just like, wait, what is going on?
Like I'm more confused than the earlier sentence.
Help, yeah.
Well, and the fact they expanded out to the point where you realize, and he doesn't realize that he has that relationship dynamic. I mean, not only with the young girl that lives with him, played by Margaret Qualley, that's like his sugar baby, but also with Emma Stone. And there's other places where he's controlling other people's lives and doing the same thing in other cases. It's not even just that he's doing that with Jesse Plemons' character. He's actually kind of just, so like this is like there's some control.
Like it makes you wonder, like, what is the industry that he's working in? Like what manner of business is this that he has all this free time? Or is he just like, is the entire thing just like a shell corporation that he's just a rich guy that likes having control? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, but what I'm saying is that like the viewer is sort of like being like, what? Like there are many times been like, what line of work is this? Like what? Like
you're left to I actually know this. You're left to feel like that because at first he's an architect and he's
right because you see him creating.
But then he also works as an ophthalmologist, and the other like so when he starts talking to Emma Stone, you're thrown off by it. He's like, oh, I'm an ophthalmologist. So yeah, it is. I think it is supposed to be like his job is that he's a rich guy that controls people's lives. Yeah. And you're left to think that he's in some kind of nondescript office. But the only reason why I paid that much attention to that is that my dad is an architect and had like these weird dynamics when I was younger with, you know, the old, like he would work with older men.
From the headlines.
And so I was like trying to explain the plot to my mom after I saw it. And she was like, because I was like in shock and I was trying to just talk about it with anybody and kind of just babble on about it. And she was like, yeah, there's like a weird thing in architecture specifically also where like they haze, like the older men kind of haze and like control the relationships of like younger men a little bit more. And she's like, I noticed that in your dad's work when he was young. And I was like, this is you're trying to tell me this is just an architect thing, but I don't think is.
Yeah, I think Master Builder also kind of shows a little bit of that relationship.
Yeah, but I think it's fascinating though. The whole thing is control and domination, and like watching Dogtooth the night before this, which is a Greek film that he made as it's like kind of his breakout film. It's not his first film, but it's his breakout film, and it's about like these really fascist kind of parents that lie to their kids about the world around them, so the kids can't leave the house. And it gets crazier and crazier as these kids, go further and further. You see their kind of delusional life, and because of course, like with your parents, it's one thing, but this kind of, I guess, turns that kind of into more of a rather than a fear kind of thing. Which in Dogtooth, there's some pretty severe beatings throughout it that the father gives the kids. Instead, this one is more based on disappointment, guilt, affection. So all of that kind of stuff at the same time.
Most of the violence is of emotional nature, right? But which is the same. Which, of course, spoiler. I don't know why the hell anyone would be watching this if they're worried about spoilers for Kinds of Kindness. But like, yeah, very violent at the end, where it's sort of like, oh no, he's not gonna. Oh, and he goes around again to get him just to be on the safe side. It was like, oh my god, that is what the audience is being. That is what's being done to the audience by this film, basically.
Well, and
Yorgos taking another trip around the car park.
Not just that though, it's control, lack of control, right? And throughout the entire story, it's kind of brilliant. Control, lack of control. When he finally, goes over fucking RMF over and over again with the car. Yeah. It's this ultimate moment of the release of all fucking he's not only he's going back to what Willem Dafoe was telling him to do, but he's lost it pretty much. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's lost his fucking head, his life has collapsed around him because the second he stops listening to what Willem Dafoe is saying, you realize this guy has been in this relationship for so long that he can't.
He's orchestrated so many aspects of his life, including things that he thought were based on his own merit and decisions, and it turns out no, it's everything has been puppet mastered from the beginning, including this new interaction and potential romantic entanglement that was like, oh no, that's been orchestrated as well. Like, this guy is like just the puppet master of everything in his life, and there's no other way around it.
It's either that or the most intense episode of Impractical Jokers you've ever seen. But no, yeah, and his life has been so orchestrated that that he it unravels, right? Because first you see just a list of instructions for the day, and it's like, this is like a very controlling list of you can't fuck today, you can't eat today, or this is what you eat today. You can't have an alcoholic beverage. Now you can have an alcoholic beverage. Oh, you want like a whiskey right now?
He goes to the bar and tries to, and then the bartender looks at him, and then he's like, haha, JK, and changes it to whatever he said. So it's clearly the bartender's on the payroll too, right? He's got everybody. Yeah. It's
bartender.
It seems exhausting. By the way, it seems like a lot of work. But
it's funny that his relationship with Margaret Qualley, who's apparently it feels like his sugar baby. Like, she's just a 20-something year old that he has around the house that does tasks. He gives her a way more leeway, I think, than his other people, because he's literally asking her on the phone when you first hear, all right, what are you gonna do today? And she's like, oh, I think I'm gonna practice piano. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
And then when she does, you're just like, oh god, like stop.
That's why you practice,
Practice makes perfect.
Well, she just hasn't done it in a while. She warned us.
Ever.
All right, everyone's a critic. Anyway, let's hear you bust loose unprompted.
No, but yeah, I think that there's a fascinating exercise in control and then lack of control, and it gets more and more pathetic. A really funny laugh line, I think, in this one. In the beginning, he tells Jesse Plemons, oh, pretend you hurt your hand, and the woman will, who becomes his wife, will come take care of you. So there's a stunt that he does where he's like, my hand, and she takes care of him, and he tries to
repeat it,
yeah, but he's just on the ground just like this, doing the fucking
it's terrible.
And he's like, and the woman just steps over him, and that's one of those moments where it's like, this is really fucking tense because I don't know what where this is going. You know what I mean? Number one. Well, no, I just don't know where this is going.
Exactly. There's so many moments like that.
But also, what the fuck was that, bro?
Unconvincing is what it was. But, props to her for just being like, you know what? I'm good.
No. I've seen this movie. I die in this movie. Thank you very much. But it's interesting that the Emma Stone character falls for it when we know that she is also controlled by RMF. So it's really just RMF allowing her to fall for it, right?
Yeah.
Or not RMF.
I'm sorry, not RMF. The Will.
Robert.
Yeah.
Well, also too, out of all of the three,
Everybody's name in that story has an R, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's really
But
fucking
also, too,
complicated for that.
out of all the
Raymond.
three,
He's Raymond in this one, right?
Raymond. Yeah. Raymond is the boss. Robert is Jesse Plemons.
Okay.
What's the I don't know what the Emma
Rita.
Stone is. Rita.
For
Yeah.
Emma Stone.
Literally everybody in this has an R as their name, and then RMF.
Yeah, R. Out of all the, little like stories, Emma Stone has the least amount of time in the first one.
That's right.
Yeah.
As time goes on, I'm glad you brought that up, Christina, because I feel like Jesse Plemons'
It was like the
importance.
focus.
Well, I feel like Jesse Plemons' screen time is starts off as the most and ends as the least, and Emma Stone is the other way around. So there's kind of like there's a symmetry to it, right?
Yeah.
Where it kind of meets in the middle, and I'm sure that's got to be intentional. But from the very misleading previews, you were kind of led to believe that whatever the hell's going on, it's Emma Stone's movie, and it's like, well, the last one is, but the first one is absolutely Jesse Plemons' movie, and I'd say the second one is like kind of a mix between the two. It's sort
Jesse
of like
Plemons really does the heavy lifting too in that one.
Sure.
Like
And
I'm not
his
saying that
hair
Emma Stone's
gets
not doing anything. It's just that Jesse Plemons has like so much that he's doing in that that really does, honestly, like if he doesn't get nominated for anything because of this,
oh, he's great.
Like,
He's fantastic.
He
we
won.
should write
They debuted this at Cannes, and he
He'll
won.
probably get nominated for fucking Civil War. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't have said that into the world.
He
Great,
won.
now you cursed it, Conan.
I know.
He won Best Actor at Cannes. It was a big deal because of this movie.
Oh, okay.
A couple months ago.
Very deservingly too.
Because everyone loved it.
He was great in it. So his role in Civil War is one of the only great things about Civil War, in my opinion.
It's truly standout. Yeah.
It is a standout role, but it's a mediocre movie. I'm sorry.
Yo, Conan, we're the minorities
What
here.
kind of American
I
are you?
know. Everyone loves it. Yeah.
You're doing your Kanye West. Like, I'll let you finish, but it was a mediocre movie.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, there's people whose opinions I really respect who like love Civil War. I didn't. It was a perfectly fine movie about photojournalists that was depicted as something entirely different.
It got killed by
you're,
hype too.
You're an American. What kind of American are you?
Well, you're pointing out like one of the only scenes that work in that entire film, and you're saying it as if like that's the problem. That's not the problem. That's not the problem.
I have no idea what the problem is.
Oh, okay, all right. It's one of the only scenes that it is actually genuinely genuinely unsettling. Like that scene is genuinely unsettling. But anyway,
whereas all of this film is
this whole movie is unsettling.
I have literally no desire to watch Civil. Like, it's not. It just doesn't seem like my cup of tea.
It just still makes no sense for Texas and California to like. There's never ever. I don't care. Alternative timeline.
No, but you know what does make sense? Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone in a movie together.
Who are both great.
Yeah, no, they're phenomenal.
You're right. It does. It doesn't make any sense.
Their Civil War was a fight for screen time.
True.
So
the real Civil War.
So basically, this one is about like somebody without choice trying to take control of their life, right? That's ultimately what this is. This
struggle.
Oh, I kind of, and this is like maybe a little fetched far. I kind of kept thinking about the way that man is given free will. Like, oh, we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And then we kind of really wish that we had gotten back in. And like, what is the true cost of free will in the long run when you're like, oh, maybe it was hard to be under this regime, but like, you don't even fucking know what to order at the bar, you dipshit.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Sure.
Oh my god, it's like my mom. Like a short little story. My mom and my sister and I made that one girl on TikTok, TD. She worked for Gordon Ramsay, her famous mac and cheese. It was just my sister and I. And my sister was, telling me like what to do, make the
we have an
roux and all
after party
that.
for this kind of story, right?
No, but the point, my sister would be like, Mom over here, she'd be taking all the utensils from you and showing you how to do it. And I'm over here letting you do your work for you because you actually know what the fuck you're doing. I'm like, thanks, sis. See, I know what I'm doing.
In summation, mac and cheese. Thank you.
Just like Kinds of Kindness, exactly, 100%. No, but I think after watching Yorgos' attack, because I've watched now, I think probably at least half the movies he's made. I mean, I haven't watched the Greek ones, but I think I've watched pretty much every English one that he's made. And he does the same thing, the same kind of controlling thing with actors.
Look at Killing of a Sacred Deer too.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's another perfect example. I mean, obviously it's darker and more violent, but like it's the same kind of power dynamic of just impossible choices.
I'm trying to say something different. So as a director, his relationship to the actor's body throughout this, right, is a very like he has actors do things, and they are allowed to like improv certain stuff. Like Emma Stone in this improv her dance scene and stuff in the third one, but his relationship seems very controlling to the actors' bodies themselves. And it's almost like sometimes in the movies that he makes, especially Poor Things, but like also at some points in this, it feels almost like he thinks of actors in some points in this movies like and Killing of a Sacred Deer too. Like he thinks of himself as like almost like a puppet master, and he's kind of literally controlling the actual like motions of the actors' bodies themselves. And they end up doing things within these movies, like whether that's like the sex scene in Dogtooth, where it literally feels like it's just somebody like putting a peg into a hole and just doing this like the entire time. Every time there's sex in that movie, it's deeply uncomfortable. Like it feels like his relationship to the actors' bodies themselves is more controlling and more dominating, I think, than a lot of other directors in what he tells his actors to actually have to do physically.
Like maybe with like a Raymond to Robert situation in this first thing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I would agree. I can't totally articulate where, but I'm picking up what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like, it's hard to explain it with, because it transcends, I think, like 5 different movies. But I've just noticed that a lot in his movies, like whether it's telling actors to do kind of these controlled dance sequences in a lot of them. Every movie has some form of dancing, pretty much, including like Poor Things, where she's doing like the literal like she's learning how to dance in the and then like that's that freeing moment. And I think that level of control is something kind of intrinsic to Yorgos's direction style in general. Even as he gives certain actors like Emma Stone a lot of fucking free range in what they're allowed to do, or like the amount of control they have on the set. Like she literally has veto power over anything that he really puts in the script. Like if she's doing something within the movies at this point, at least, she's like she's down with it.
And I definitely think that like he has them explore that space, and so there's a lot more movement that feels not totally human because we just don't see it as frequently, and that makes you pay more attention. So I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
So the second segment, RMF is flying, is it's Jesse Plemons mourning the disappearance of his wife, who's a marine biologist who's disappeared. He's a cop, and his cop friends. And she comes back, and throughout the course, there's these little unsettling things where Jesse Plemons feels like his wife is no longer his wife anymore. It's the most uneven segment, in my opinion, I think.
That seems to be the popular consensus. I don't agree with that. I mean, it is the popular consensus. I'm don't say you have to agree with the KT.
It's what
I dissent.
That's a Sotomayor.
So we talked like one favorite scenes we already talked about, which is just like he's broken up in grief over missing her so bad at the dinner table and wants to be reminded of her, and they're like, oh no, we don't want to watch the video, and then it's a fucking sex tape. It's a fucking explicit sex tape, and I thought that was deeply hilarious, especially for all the people that are like, oh, Poor Things, that's just pornography. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
from women, not men.
Have you actually seen pornography? Like, it's very different.
I'm gonna guess.
And the production design usually isn't as top notch. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. Have you seen Pirates in 2006? That was.
Oh my God! Yes.
All right, moving on. Don't care. Move on.
So RMF is flying the second segment, right? Like each one, RMF is the one controlling unit, and as we said, he gets brutally fucking killed in the first one, and Jesse Plemons' complete loss of complete giving in to fucking Willem Dafoe and loss of control. He gets run over multiple times. So RMF is the pilot in this one, which kind of begs the question: what is this guy's life like? You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, he's a helicopter pilot that saves people, but also he's willing to just give up his life to get hit by a car and die. Like this.
But maybe he knows what's going to happen, though. Like, what if RMF knew that he was going to be resurrected? Would he not take the money and be killed?
True. That's true. That's 100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that actually is a through line through the 3 stories, too.
Yeah, because you see the tire tracks on his belly and the corpse in the third one. So I assumed it was all the same guy.
Yeah, it is the same. No, it is the same guy.
Cool.
But he's the only one that's the same guy.
Yeah, it's all tied together, people.
He's also
it's all connected, people.
He's also completely nonverbal.
Yeah.
And throughout this, he doesn't say one word, so you don't really know any information about the character. And he gets fucking roasted by Margaret Qualley when she's looking at the RMF and the initials on. That's how you know his name is RMF. It says RMF.
Yeah, it's poorly embroidered. It looks like a bee.
Well, and it's interesting to see like who kind of gets the shine in all the different segments as well. You know, I feel like Mamoudou Athie, who's he's the partner in this one. He was in a great.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
It's so hard to figure out. Yeah.
He was in a great show called Archive 81. That is a Netflix show, but not like what people think of as an insulting thing when they say it's a Netflix show. It was a supernatural horror show. Very, very good. It's based on a podcast. It was really, really good. I highly recommend it. People haven't checked it out, but I feel like he kind of gets to shine more in the second one because he's sort of like the best friend and partner and sexual partner of this quartet. And you know, it really sets up that you're like, well, this guy's the Jesse Plemons character is like crazy from grief. Like he's crazy from grief, and like, you know, it's highly implied early on that think about relieving him from duty because he's, you know, like just like not all there.
Petting that guy's hair.
He's petting the suspect's hair. Yeah, exactly.
That scene was just like grabs you though, like they're talking about him, and then you just see him like staring at the guy, caressing the guy's face. And
it could have been being violent, but no, it was the opposite because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what capgras syndrome is?
Nope.
Capgras syndrome is it's a delusion that happens to human beings, usually due to like internal hemorrhaging and damage to the brain and organs, where you are convinced someone very close to you, typically your child, has been replaced with something else.
With a double. With like a okay, so I didn't know that's what it was called, but I know of this well.
Yeah, there's like an Angelina Jolie movie about the whole damn thing. But
yeah,
that's what I felt like I was watching during the second one. This was surreal, but also highly plausible.
Well, yeah, because there's so much with that, but like there's just enough that's like, okay, it's plausible that like something doesn't seem right, but also people go through traumas have, you know, they behave differently, right? But then at the end of it, and again, spoiler alert, everyone, to be like, oh no, she was like not who she says she was, and here's the real one that just walks in the door, and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Like, so what was up with the dog island? What was up with that? Because I feel like that was a little Wes Anderson movie as an aside. That would be in the Beau was Afraid like play section of just like we're gonna.
I thought that was what she was describing when she goes on that delusional rant about like there's a place where dogs, and I was like, she's talking about the island from that Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, exactly. So what Dog Island?
The island of dog. Yeah,
it's literally in the name.
I will say though, like it's interesting. You have to think about these
Isle of Dogs. Actually, is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
It's interesting. You have to think about these segments in like
the beaches are from Isle Man.
In like an overarching kind of context, which is that in the first one, right, the guy has no identity besides what Willem Dafoe. Like that's kind of what like that's the implication of the entire character, right? Like these people have no identities besides what Willem Dafoe tells them their identity are, and as soon as Willem Dafoe kind of snatches that away, there's no more identity for these people, and they're always pulling at the fucking chains of that, trying to be like, well, you know, maybe I will have an alcoholic beverage, and then they kind of back up or whatever. In this, there's these little things about her that you're left to question what really is somebody's identity, right? Like, oh, she doesn't
his favorite song.
Yeah, not just his favorite song, but like she doesn't like chocolate, right? Like I don't eat chocolate. He goes back, she's eating chocolate. He's like, now she eats chocolate. That's not something that feels so central to her identity as a person that it would stick out. You could be like, well, oh, then I guess she's clearly not the same person. Which I feel like the Island of Dogs thing was just so they could make a reference to the fact that she ate a bunch of chocolate on the island and now she eats chocolate. Like, I don't know. I was kind of like, come on, man. But also things like, you know, her shoes literally fitting, which could just be like water retention from being on a fucking island, right? Like,
yeah.
There's these little things about her though that she comes back, and the differences are these tiny things, and it's like he could have a perfectly nice life with her, or she doesn't eat fish, and now, you know. And she's never smoked cigarettes. Now she smokes cigarettes. Like these little things but also if you're going to replicate somebody, I guess that would be like the little things you get wrong. the things that you don't necessarily know, like their likes and dislikes. It's not her as a person, as what she looks like, what she dresses like, the clothes she wears. Like perhaps it's these small things that only somebody that close to you would know going through grief, and that kind of fucks me up because of the difference between these two, or the juxtaposition between these two stories.
Yeah.
What is
all right? Show's over.
What is identity, man? I guess that's kind of the third story in a similar vein. It's like once you go to a cult, once you join a cult, you kind of are voluntarily leaving your identity behind and joining this religion or this group or whatever larger than you. It's like all of these stories kind of have that common thread.
Well, yeah, in order to have faith in anything, you have to give up on yourself as the most important thing around there. So yeah, this
just like A Rainbow in the Dark, his favorite song by Dio. Like a rainbow in the dark. Yeah.
My favorite thing about that though,
I do see the eye at that time.
I love that he goes, but you like that song too. And he's like, yeah, but that's not my
But that's my favorite one. Yeah, I know exactly. That was a very funny moment too.
That was a funny moment.
They ask you when you have your security questions, right? Like, what's your favorite? What's the name of your first pet?
Yeah.
That is like, well, that's not technically my first pet, but you had that pet at the same time.
Nah.
Okay, but if she was really my wife, she would know my first.
She would
pet.
know, yeah.
Well, that's the first video game I beat on N64. The first video game I ever beat was
right.
Yeah,
some real pedantic corrections. So I mean, I there's a lot. That's Best Actress Emma Stone deep throating a nightstick. Great. that's how you're in for a wild time. I was like, okay, yeah, they're sure. I mean, it's pretty explicit at times, right? And but it's all done in a way that's like deeply uncomfortable. There's a through line.
I mean, like that scene where she's like, "Well, let's go upstairs and have sex now," and they're like, "No, we're not going to do that." Oh, we're going to just stay down here. Like, we're going to have sex in this.
This is why.
In the kitchen.
This is why my sister's favorite movies of all time are Home Alone, Titanic, and I think Love and Basketball.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't like to broaden her horizons at all.
I think that you make
to be fair, these are some pretty broad horizons, so let's give her some credit.
Yeah, this is like being like, oh, my sister doesn't really like to leave the house much, and you're like, well, so I brought her on a 6 month vacation to like.
She had a sip of a wine cooler once. Do you want some mescaline? No, no. This is like, what are you doing? And I say that as a fan. I'm a big fan. Mescaline, not the movie.
Well, my sister doesn't leave the house much, and you're like, well, we're moving to Saudi Arabia for 6 months.
Right, exactly. I can see where it wouldn't really be your jam, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, my wife actually enjoyed Poor Things. I'm sorry, Poor Things a lot, and was a little curious about this. And after I got back, I'm just like, yeah, you wouldn't have liked this. It's because Poor Things really is a Hollywood film when you kind of think about it, because it has a happy ending. For Yorgos,
Sure. I mean, I think it's probably that and The Lobster are his most easily palatable to the mainstream movies.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say they're easily palatable to the mainstream. They're both deeply weird, but
yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the favorite too, right? Like, I mean, it's a deeply weird movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's conventional enough that
it played in my Regal theater. The favorite, nothing else though.
All right, let's. I can see this movie playing. Like, I could see Poor Things playing in something like Regal Theater. Like, I think that would be a movie that would do well. It's just it's funny to like go to the mall and watch this. Like, I don't know. It just feels like this movie specifically. It's like this is a mall movie. Okay, I guess I could do it. Like, I think that I wonder how much of a rejection though of the last few movies being narratively completely coherent. Hollywood kind of mainstream, like even if the favorite's not like I mean, there's enough kind of sexual stuff and weird stuff in it, just like Poor Things, that it's not necessarily a mainstream quote unquote movie, but like it does.
It's pretty out there for like considering what was up against and like for Oscars that year. It's pretty out there, which it's better than like. Remember, this is the Green Book year. The Green Book, everybody. This is what like everyone's like. Cool, we're gonna solve racism again.
Green Book. Vice, Bohemian Rhapsody. What a year!
Yeah,
but it seems like he's even rebelling against narrative coherence in some ways in this, right? Like he's really straining the fucking the bounds of all kinds of everything, right? Like he's straining the bounds
which I think you're right, and that's a direct reaction, and that's why I brought up Daisies that I saw last night, because I was like, oh, this is like a complete rejection of like narrative form, and like having like meta contextual jokes in within the movie itself about the fact that they're like in a movie and movie making and like juxtaposition of ideas, and also doing so as sort of like a feminist treatise that, like, you know, whether it's effective or not, that's sort of the idea. With this though, it does definitely feel like I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. And if you thought you knew who I was, you do not know who I was. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I've never said no to an idea I've had my entire life, apparently.
which is in itself kind of a pretty funny meta kind of thing, right? Like, because within this movie, every time everyone has that sense of identity, they're either trying to strain against identity itself or obsessed with identity to that point, or subverting their identity to something else. And this movie feels like like meta commentary on Yorgos being like, I'm not who you think I am, or I'm not, who I've been for the last few things. I'm actually completely rejecting that, throwing that out. I'm on a completely new era. This is my new.
I mean, it is his old screenwriting partner. So maybe it's more like going back and being like, hey, now that I'm a well-respected, famous director, let me bring back my old friend here.
Yeah,
and,
so get the band back together, and the band's Captain Beefheart.
Well, it's his old screenwriting partner who also did write The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer with him. So it's not like
Killing of a Sacred Deer is pretty jacked up, though.
Yeah.
Also, now that it's like post-Oscar success here, because I don't think The Favorite was really successful at the Oscars.
Just a little bit.
Poor Thing certainly was.
Yeah, Olivia was. She was recognized for her performance, but it was like one of those things where she was also recognized for all her performances at the same time. And while nominated, it was like, well, wait, all right, the freaks like this one, so we'll get it in there.
Well, also too, Glenn Close was nominated that year too, and she's been nominated for how many times and hasn't won a single Oscar. A lot of people thought it would go to her that year, but Olivia with the sneaky.
Yep. Well,
his apparently Yorgos' first movie, which Yorgos' first movie is like a 2001 sex comedy from Greece. Like, it's not even like.
Of course it is.
And then
you could literally say his first movie is, and like insert blank of just anything, and I'm like,
and
yep,
it would fit.
Sure, it is, no problem. Oh yeah, it's a remake of Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. Okay.
I also love the fact that so obviously Yorgos Lanthimos, director, Yorgos through Metropolis or something like.
Mephistopheles?
Crazy. No, it's some crazy fucking Greek name. Like it's some crazy long Greek name. That's his editor. That's the only collaborator he's had on every single film. His editor is edited.
Must be a popular Greek name. Yorgos.
Directed. And then
three of them in this.
Yorgos Stephanopoulos or something, or Yorgos. I don't know.
George.
Yorgos.
George's brother. Yeah.
The guy that played RMF.
It's a very common name in Greece.
The guy that played RMF is the local notary public from Athens.
What?
It's the first thing on his IMDb page says he is the local notary public. Like that's what he wanted everyone.
Wow.
What did people in Athens do if they needed to get notarized while he was out in the States filming?
Out filming, I guess. Maybe he has a
there's a
assistant notary. I don't know.
Sign on his door that says, a sign on his door says out filming.
Can I say the life and times of the assistant notary who notarizes things while Yorgos is away filming could be in fact be a Yorgos Lanthimos movie in and of itself.
It sounds like a Wes Anderson movie to me.
I think it would be deeply fucked up. I think there would be like some
collaborations if they ever collaborate on something.
Second,
but wait, before we jump to the third, the last thing I wanted to say, by the way. So one of the things that fucks me up throughout the second one is that he keeps getting these phone calls after his wife comes back, where it's just kind of static and like you can hear some breathing or like,
right.
And those calls he gets the calls over and over. So whenever things get really tense, all of a sudden there's a phone call that he gets and you hear his phone go off, which already.
Do you like scary movies?
Yeah.
No, right. Exactly.
I already like.
Where's that crossover?
I already get kind of, I guess, jacked up in movies when I hear a phone going off, and then in my head I'm like, even I know it's not my phone, but I'm like, is that my phone? Like, you know what I mean? Like my brain automatically just does that. So every time the movie gets specifically kind of tense, like he gets a phone call and it's just kind of breathing and nothing on the line, and then he starts to think that this is his wife calling him from the beach wherever she is, the beach where everybody's old, like and the other thing that throughout this that there's a flashback to what she did on the beach, and it's cannibalism, and that never gets addressed throughout this. It never gets touched on throughout this. Really, I mean, nobody talks about it.
It's like,
Is
whatever.
Is that a flashback or is that a fantasy of what he imagines what they?
I know. See, you don't know.
You don't know.
It's so hard to, but you also don't know whether he's imagining these phone calls. Like,
right.
Hard, like gauging what's real and what's not within the story. Really, it's really
well because again, from the very beginning, it's sort of like seeing that should be an unreliable narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like maybe don't trust what this guy says exactly.
And he's a cop. So I don't trust him anyway.
Because I mean, after he shoots the guy in the hand, it starts licking it. Like you know, you're supposed. Well, you know, if you were going along with him to that point, you really shouldn't have been.
And there's no real recompense for that, so it feels very dreamlike in that like that happened, and everybody's like that wasn't great, and you're like no, that was really bad.
Yeah, it's like weird how that happened, huh? Anyway, moving on. I was like, what? No, like not moving on. Like why? That's.
But I mean, that is the police for you.
So as the story goes on, right? He wants to prove that it's not his wife.
But he shoots a dude in the hand too. It was just like whoa.
That's what I'm saying. I don't trust cops.
And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did that. It was like, yo, too late.
Well, he says, I'm so sorry I did that. And then he rushes up and then he starts licking the guy's hand.
Yeah.
He's like,
I remember.
I know what I'm saying. Like those two things combined, right? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, it's like what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like
imagery of the cannibalism that he sees. And that makes me again think that that's part of his interpretation of what she went through and his fantasy, because he's going towards it and wanting to connect with her.
Well, and the opposite of her kind of thing, where she comes back with slightly different tastes. The guy that literally tastes, I guess, like the guy that comes back with her, who it's presumed that maybe that's the foot that she's eating in the, because he's missed, like they have to remove his leg. There's parts of his leg missing. And you see her literally eating a leg. You don't know whether it's her, like his leg or somebody else's leg. But he's been turned into a completely blank slate. And so he's asking his wife, do you have Kool-Aid? And he asks, Jesse Plemons if he's a doctor. Like, he has absolutely no memory of anything and no identity anymore. And his wife is like slightly different in every possible way. So those things all kind of fuck you up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So the cannibalism argument frame, if you will, is sort of more understandable, that she doesn't seem that nonplussed about, like, frankly chopping off parts of her body for him to eat. Like, which is...
No.
Okay. Like, I mean, it's sort of like, it's like, look, somebody going through that kind of trauma is not going to be in their right mind, but that's sort of, I feel like, a bridge too far for most folks. So, I mean, I think that's, again, that's left up for the viewer to decide, because the whole point is for it to shock, right? It's like, how far would you go for love? Basically, more or less, right?
I will do anything but that.
I think it's
but I won't do that.
Christina, I need you to make me mac and cheese and just your pinky. You just put your pinky in the mac and cheese, and that.
Really, like it's all full of tendons. There's not a lot of flavor in there. You really should go with something else that has a little more meat to it. I've had frog legs before, and I'm sorry.
Get the thigh.
All right.
I felt like when he tells his wife, I didn't even eat the finger, I fed it to the cat, your finger is gross. I felt that was the bridge too far for me. I was like, that's really mean to say to, like,
you were fine up until that point. Like,
I kind of was, because it's like,
that's just crass.
Don't be wasteful with food.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
All right, Hannibal Lecter.
I felt like, all right, this is a Yorgos movie. You've already seen her eat you've seen him lick blood off someone. You've seen her eat a fucking leg. And then, but for him to be like, I didn't even eat your finger. Then I was like, come on, man, it's wasteful.
That's just emotional.
Did that.
Though.
Yeah.
So what I want to say is that it is disgusting. It is a horror kind of thing, but many horror things have a deeper meaning. And if you look at this as a form of an analogy for abuse, and the way that it is like a frog in boiling water, where you would literally cut a part of yourself off, hurt yourself because you love this person so much. And even though she's the alien in this, to make us step back and have this like weird view of her experience is very strange, and that makes the ending even stranger. But it is also a beautiful metaphor for what that kind of painful love is like.
Yeah, I think what threw me off from it was the dog story.
Well, we're almost. Let's close.
What was saying, KT? Like, I get that. I just wish the dog story wasn't in there because I just feel like
you just wish it was not explained, like where she was.
Yeah, I just because that kind of took me out of like, okay, well that's adding like another long kind of weird plot, like rambling plot detail. That if it was just that she had been on an island and we don't know what happened, and maybe she's an alien, maybe she's been replaced, maybe it's somebody doing this to seemingly prank Jesse Plemons.
Maybe it's Maybelline. We don't know.
Like all of those things. It's like, okay, I get that, but then she's like, oh well, then I went to an island where humans are the dogs and we're the pets, and dogs didn't take bad care of us. And I get that it's kind of this long kind of thing that you're meant to think, okay, well, that power dynamic is then switched and then things aren't that bad. And she's saying, I can stay in the situation where I'm abused, but things aren't that bad. At least there's somebody consistently there. But it's like, I don't know. I think that's where the uneven part for me went.
I think he was injecting insane amounts of absurdist humor into that particular piece to try and counteract the amount of anxiety that was there, to give reprieve to the tension, and it may not have totally worked.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I mean,
it's
I'm willing to buy that. I'm just I'm like just trying to like parse through what kind of took me out of the, because I don't think that the her taking off the thumb, her taking her cutting out her liver kind of did it. Like it kind of fucked me up a bit, but like the thumb and stuff, right? Like I don't think that's what took me out of it, or like the violence that happens all of a sudden, right? Like I don't know if that's what took me out of it, and I'm trying to think through what did. Just putting in the center of the story the dog thing.
The dog's driving the car on the freeway.
Yeah. Well, the dogs are doing all the things humans do, which my favorite shot of the dogs, by the way, the dogs are fucking human style. They're fucking in missionary instead of fucking in doggy style, which I did appreciate that. Shout out to that one.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the inclusion of the dog imagery in that space. I don't know. Does it feel necessary? It felt very strange.
I don't know, but
would you prefer theater of the mind instead?
It does take us into the.
How about just the next story? Just the next story.
It takes us into the next story because that literally is the weird transition that they put between the two stories, which the last story was my favorite one.
Well, before we get into that, I think second segment is too long, personally. Like, I feel like the first segment was probably just about right. I think the second segment was a little bit too long, probably about like 10 minutes.
And I think at least in my opinion, it was the dog story that did that for me. I think.
Okay.
No, I know.
All right. You're on record. We get it. Yeah.
Death to the dog story. Death to the dog.
I don't know. I was trying to think through what made this uneven for me, or what made this feel. It definitely does feel too long.
You have trauma going back to the Baja, man, and you really just
maybe I had a nightmare where I was the pet and Audrey was my owner, and I was like, I don't want to go back to that island. I don't want to go back to the island where the dogs are the owners.
Listen, Yorgos Lanthimos. I don't need any of this.
But are we taking the ending of the second segment to be like just on the face of it? That's what happened, or did he actually gaslight his wife into killing herself? And that, I mean, is that real? Because that's something as well. It's not definitively. There's no outside party to verify what's happening. Right?
I don't know what to do with the ending of that piece at all.
Yeah, also, and that's one of the reasons I'm not crazy about it.
Exactly.
How do you know that that's not also?
But I love the composition.
Like another creature that's respawned. And
touche moi, sir. You're right. We don't know. How do we know he's not a creature too?
It feels like one of the things where she's this back and he just assumes that's his wife. Like, what if that's
because you're right, because there's no connection to the phone, right? So it was just sort of okay, yeah. I mean, well, and then maybe this is all right. Maybe he was an officer involved shooting and was killed, and this is hell. Who knows?
It would be very funny.
Type scenario.
It would be very funny if he slowly realizes that's not his wife either, and then he's like, "Oh,
yeah,"
man.
and then that's.
Then he slowly convinces her to do it, and then she goes back again, and he's like, "This isn't my wife either. Where the fuck is my wife?
Yeah,
my wife.
My wife."
And he's
not very nice.
And it's a different Dio song every time.
But yeah, so it brings us to the third story, which was my favorite. RMF eats a sandwich, and that's the cult story where Willem Dafoe is in an orange Speedo, and he's the cult leader.
That's your favorite part.
Yeah. It seems to be a lot of people's favorite part.
Don't bury the lead, man.
I wonder why.
But yeah, and this is the most Emma Stone centric one. As she and Jesse Plemons go around trying to track down somebody who has the ability to resurrect the dead for this cult. Like that's their prophecy. And I think this felt just in my opinion, it felt the most fleshed out No pun intended. But it felt the most like. It felt like that. This one
had the most nudity.
Maybe that's what I meant. No.
That was the pun that was not intended, but there you go.
Narratively fleshed out. But I also think that it felt narratively fleshed out because it has like a prophecy at the center of it, right? Like it has a goal or an objective that from the beginning you realize what that what they're searching for.
Yeah.
And there's Hunter Schafer in it from the beginning, which she did good.
The thing I love about each of these stories too is like each of them start off in a weird place, and this one starts off with like the measuring the nipples to the navel, which is just like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, but it is kind of like if you look at all those like weird prophecies and stuff that all these religions and cults, and really, what is the difference other than popularity? It is like the same thing. It's all these weird arbitrary things that were decided by some imaginary person or someone interpreted. I think what God meant to say was that like they're looking for like these things. So it is funny that because the first thing that's sort of off-putting here is like, why do they have their own water? What like what are you looking for? Why do they have their own water?
Trump water, Trump steaks, Trump air.
Right, exactly. And that's sort of like the first like, okay, something's kind of strange here. But I love that it's never
nipple measuring wasn't strange for you.
I love that it's never mentioned why Emma Stone drives the way she does.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's like a cool, like, that's a great, she's always pulling bootlegger's turns and just like,
look, if you got a purple muscle car, you're going to drive like that.
I think that's her husband's car too, by the way. Her husband, they used his car for that.
Her husband, by the way, in this, and he's a collector, the appraiser or whatever.
And he like keeps saying everything's not worth anything.
That's the guy, Joe Alwyn or whatever, that was in a 7-year relationship with Taylor Swift right before she broke up with him, right before this movie kind of was filmed. So a lot of the promo for this, because I think people just don't know what the fuck to do with their like reviews, has been like, oh, Taylor Swift's ex stars in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, and I was like, he's barely, like, out of all of them, he's barely in it. Like,
although this is his biggest part in the
Okay, so I love that as a defining character trait for her character that like is just never explained, but obviously factors heavily into the ending of it. Like I think that's done well, and like it's not done where it's like a surprise. It's like, no, she's doing it the entire anytime she goes anywhere, she's just like going to
like an episode
mainlining mainlining the throttle as hard as she can, like and taking great pains to not like park the easy way. She does like she freaking just practically ghost right in the whip when she parks that one time. It's pretty impressive. But I like that. Again, you get aspects of like this religious organization, right? Which obviously is another, like, everyone's sexing each other up, except for if you're an outsider and then you're contaminated and you need to be sweat it out, and then it's decided whether you're clear or not, so to speak.
If you taste good, you're clear.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. But the whole setup with like the ship, right? The ship that's like, oh, and this is where they'll be, and you're like, what are they setting up? What is this? And the idea is like, oh, we found the Messiah, we found the healer, and we're gonna like set up shop in international waters on this ship that is like, in this weird legalistic framework where, yes, it is kidnapping, but like, nobody can do anything, or if they could, then we could like, take it somewhere else or whatever, which is pretty insidious and honestly kind of the kind of stuff that cults do.
Yeah. Well, and cults in themselves are this fucked up power dynamic. Of course they are, but like the one guy.
So brave of you to say that, by the way.
No, but like the headquarters, you could tell that.
I thought we were a pro cult podcast.
Willem Dafoe's role within this, right? It's like this huge kind of compound mansion thing. He's clearly the person who has the most power over everybody because he's rich. Like, they can do whatever the fuck they want. Whatever he does. I mean, maybe it's because he controlled so many people that he made money off that. Like, who knows? But he has the most control because they're in this kind of sprawling mansion and they clearly have a lot of money. They have a super yacht, like that kind of thing, right? Like, his control over people is absolute. For like, I don't know. But I wanted to say with your thing about Emma Stone's driving in this, my assumption is that it's the fact that she has 1 foot in and 1 foot out of this entire cult, right? Because she is secretly going to see her husband and daughter at certain times. it's like the split personality kind of thing that you're witnessing throughout this, that like gets more and more frantic as she's kicked out of the cult, you know, for getting raped, and like I don't know,
which is sort of like that may actually ultimately be good for you, but it does kind of suck that was the reason.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, you understand why she joined the cult, because her husband is such a bastard, and like you get that pretty early on when his first real scene when his kid's like, oh, look at the shoes Daddy got me. It's like, no, he took credit for that? Like, really?
Right.
Yeah, because she goes into the house and leaves stuff behind. Like, she's still going to her family's house, and secretly you see her go into like the family's the house she presumably owns, probably. I mean, maybe I don't know, but like she still has the key, and she goes back. She leaves stuff for her daughter. She really does have like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of her family's life in some way. But of course, that's like the husband can take advantage of that, because she's not exactly like it's not like there's any consistency to it.
I do like that you don't really know what the hell it is they're looking for. Like it's like, oh, they're looking for someone that fits this criteria. You don't know why, but they're looking for someone that meets this criteria, and it's sort of implied, right? With an alarming degree of specificity, and it's sort of implied like, oh, it's like a messiah thing, right? But it's like, oh no, it's like literally someone that can like bring back the dead, like someone that's like a healer, like that they can. Like quite literally bring back.
You're thrown right into it, because that's simply not the only thing that they're looking for, right? Like there's a series of tests that you're left, and the final test is like, well, they could bring back the dead. So you're left with Hunter Schafer being brought into a morgue, and she's clearly gone through the gauntlet of all these different tests that they've explained to her.
Right.
And the final one, and this is so I found this clip that I thought was the funniest fucking thing, where she's explaining like how she got cast. She's only in this one story.
Right.
And so Hunter Schafer is explaining to everybody on the in the cast how she got cast, and this shit cracks him the fuck up.
Hunter, I have to say, for your character, you have this sort of enviable task of like, you got one and you better make it happen. So I'm hopefully not, you announced it though first, so I'm not saying anything. You're like, my one scene, I'm like, okay, good, I can ask. But does that make it more difficult knowing like, hey, like it's like the home run derby. You got to hit it out of the park and connect, and then like you get out of here. Like, how quick were you on set and doing your scene?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like feel that pressure necessarily. I think it's probably because of how Yorgos kind of invited me in that it was just like this very sweet little simple email that that he asked me to come play. Like that's the word he used. And so like coming in with that, and that was the invitation, and I only got one scene, so I kind of knew that I wasn't having to like reference everything else that was going on. It was just like, okay, this is the space I'm given today. I'm gonna come in, see what happens, and it felt safe to do that. So it was cool.
If I get that email, I'd call the police.
Very critical.
Willem was laughing for 20 seconds before that. Couldn't wait.
It's Yorgos.
We've done interviews together for like 8 months now, and every single time he pulls a Billy Jones.
Hunter Schafer, of course, is known for being Euphoria. 2 actresses, Zendaya and Alexis Demi, were supposed to play unspecified roles in this, and I'm like, maybe they were figure out which actress from Euphoria to pick to be in this movie.
I mean, I don't think that's the calculus, but that would be funny. He's like, I love Euphoria. How can I get every girl from Euphoria into one of my movies?
One of them could have been the Margaret Qualley character.
Or the Hung Zhao character, too.
Yeah.
Once we get to all the casting stuff, I got a lot of details on that.
All right, let's hear some of them.
All right. So,
what an introduction to this bit. All right, fine. Let's hear some of them.
So, Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Bryan Cranston, Andrew Garfield, Ryan Gosling, Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson, John Hawkes, Chris Hemsworth, and Sam Rockwell were considered for Jesse Plemons' roles. Right?
Whoa, that's an alternate universe of different movies.
Yes.
It's too many options.
I mean, they all would have been good, and they all would have been very different.
Yeah.
But for Emma Stone, Amy Adams, Maud Apatow, Cate Blanchett, Emily Blunt, Jessica Chastain, Emilia Clarke, Olivia Cooke, Zoe Dutch, Lily Gladstone, Anne Hathaway, Dakota Johnson, Riley Keough, Anna Kendrick, Nicole Kidman, Diane Kruger, Brie Larson, Sasha Lane, Jennifer Lawrence, Blake Lively, Melanie Lazinski, Rachel McAdams, Chloe Grace Moritz, Elizabeth Moss, Carrie Mulligan, Madeline Pesh, Ellen Purnell, Amanda Seyfried, Quinn Shepard, Sarah Snook, Sydney Sweetie, Tilda Swinton, Charlize Theron, Marissa Tomei, Sophie Turner, Rachel Weisz, Allison Williams, Kate Winslet, Reese Witherspoon, Evan Rachel Wood, and Shannon Woodward. We're all
and KT Baldassaro actually.
That's a joke. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like every working actress in Hollywood was apparently considered for it. Okay.
And
for
the
Margaret,
ages are wildly different.
Yeah,
Like-
now for Margaret Qualley, it was going to be Daisy Edgar-Jones, Lucy Hale, Florence Pugh, Lily Reinhart, Margot Robbie, Saoirse Ronan, and Anya Taylor-Joy.
You're just too busy.
I could see Anya Taylor-Joy in a Yorgos movie of some kind.
Yeah.
At some
Now-
point, I'd love to see
Right now.
that. Yes.
Dakota Johnson would have been good for one of the other bodies in the morgue.
Yes.
Damn, let her up.
Now for Willem Dafoe, you had George Clooney, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert Downey Jr., Brendan Gleeson, Ethan Hawke, Edward Norton, Al Pacino, Brad Pitt, Jeremy Renner, and Mark Ruffalo were considered for Willem Dafoe's roles.
George Clooney would have been fucking nuts. Can you imagine him being that kind of
Yeah,
I kind of want to see that.
Done
He
anything
has
like that?
fun in those types of roles too. Like he really gets to really just
Like all the Coen Brothers stuff. He plays weird roles.
It's been a while since I've really seen him in something like that, though.
Yeah. Oh, more casting for okay. So Austin Butler, Bradley.
These are
Cooper,
too many choices. You can't even like envision.
Benedict
But yeah, go ahead.
Cumberbatch, Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, Michael Keaton,
Waller,
Barry Keoghan, Paul Mescal,
Hubert
Cillian
Humperdinck.
Murphy, Eddie Redmayne were all considered for the roles of the collectibles appraisers. One, Jeremy Joseph, which went to Joe Allen. So I was like,
Oh, I don't think I would have liked Eddie Redmayne.
Also,
Paul Mescal's good though. I like him a lot.
Steffi Sue, Michelle Yeoh were considered for the roles of Sarah Sharon Aka, which went to Hong Chau.
Michelle Yeoh, she's good at everything. But
Yeah, and now for the roles of Will, Neil, and the morgue nurse, Sterling K. Brown, Don Cheadle, Coleman Domingo, Jamie Foxx, Terrence Howard, like he's doing anything right now, Forrest Whitaker, Jeffrey Wright.
you had me at Sterling K. Brown.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him and everything.
Yeah. Okay. Those would all be good, but different. So I'm sorry. That was for the role that Mamoudou played. Okay.
Yeah.
Mamoudou.
I mean,
I tried to say Mamoudou so many fucking times when I was doing that intro. The name fucked me up.
But like the list of people that were considered, I'm like, how? Like what? That was crazy.
To be in the movie of like an Oscar-nominated director, yes.
Yeah.
I understand. I agree.
I had to jump off for a second, but I want to go back to the fact that Al Pacino was considered for the Willem Dafoe role.
No.
Hooah!
No.
I got a torpedo. Like the most.
I definitely would.
You're contaminated, kid.
I would have thrown up by the end of the third one.
I would have absolutely loved to see him as the fucking boss in the beginning, Raymond or whatever, and he's like, "I like your hair, don't change it." Like,
in fairness, the first one gave me what was the one where Pacino was with Keanu Reeves, and it's like Devil's Advocate.
Oh, Devil's Advocate, yeah.
Yeah.
Those vibes there, so that does make sense casting for the first one,
Yeah.
sure.
well, he always looks very nice in a suit, sitting at like behind a desk. I feel like
Doing ominous stuff. I mean,
Yeah. But being naked in bed, like that Willem Dafoe scene, I don't know if I really want to see Al Pacino like that.
He says that being in Jack and Jill, that Netflix produced film, because Netflix produced films are typically not that great.
Adam Sandler film, yeah.
Yeah, that ruined his career, and he's been struggling. Should he had not gotten the role in The Irishman, he wouldn't have acted again, he believes.
Yeah. Also, I think Johnny Depp was also, they did like a cameo scene together on it was like a Lakers game, I think, if I remember that scene. I was like, what? I was like, how did Adam Sandler rope Al Pacino and Johnny Depp into a cameo in this movie? What's going on here? Another Adam Sandler was up for just kidding.
how did Adam Sandler rope him into it? He's got a lot of debt.
He's got
Sorry.
This is before I cut you out.
big bucks. So some trivia that I'm now
Jesse Plemons' hair gets smaller and smaller with every segment. Did you notice that too?
No, I did.
Yeah,
I did notice
too.
that, but that is not what I was going to say. Mamoudou and Emma share the same month, date, and year of birth, November 6, 1988.
They're twins.
Or is it possible that they were switched at birth? And
Switched
their
at
parents-
just like Movie Night Extravaganza and Margot Robbie share the exact month of birth.
Was it possible that they were switched? No.
Yeah, we were supposed to.
I mean,
be
Margot
Barbie.
Robbie has a lot of twins.
We were supposed to be the four Barbies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of the apocalypse.
I grew up with her and everything.
This is
the apocalypse.
I love Willem Dafoe. Like any clip that they interview him is so funny for whatever reason. Like, so I found this
Sir Willem.
interview.
He loves his job. He loves being an actor.
He definitely does. Yeah, but there's something just like every clip he's in is just so interesting. Because sometimes he does a thing where he's just dying laughing about something random. Like, and then the other times he just seems like such a normal fucking guy that doesn't have.
And then he's like,
that much to like, I don't know.
Then he stands there posing like a bird.
He's just such a fascinating individual.
I agree.
I love when we talked about Inside Man, and they cast him as just like the most nondescript possible normal guy that you're supposed to be like
the most normal dude ever. Yeah, it was like, why'd you get Willem Dafoe for that? Like, he's like,
he's the least normal dude.
He's like the best freak of the week you could possibly get, and I mean that as a compliment.
If you need someone like if you need like an actor to play like a role that's like eccentric and out there. Come on.
Yeah.
It's him or Brad Dourif.
I'm something of an eccentric myself. All right, so back to the third segment here. So they're on the hunt for this person for the organization. She's kind of got a foot in both worlds. Turns out her husband, who's kind of played off as like, just being concerned for her well-being at first, is like, oh no, like, this is kind of messed up. Like this he seems very comfortable to put it bluntly, taking advantage of her.
Yeah,
and lying to her, and
outright lying.
And he's actually the like you think the cult's the one manipulating her, which probably is to a point, but
I mean,
you don't really see it in the film.
I don't know. But they did tell her. They told her a prophecy, and the prophecy was just a true statement of fact. It's like
turns out it was just true. Yeah,
it feels like the least manipulative cult, because they're just like, look, you follow the rules or you don't. I don't care. Get out of here if you're not going to follow the rules. And then they're like, you find someone, if you want to find someone that's coming back from there,
you better be able to sweat it out afterwards.
Yeah.
That's as long as you can sweat it out, no problem.
I did feel I felt very bad for that one bigger girl that got accused by somebody for whatever reason of sleeping with somebody outside of that, and that scene kind of felt a little bit heartbreaking. Like, it felt like that's where they were giving you like the manipulation of the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was there. It just, you didn't necessarily see it with Emma Stone.
Yeah, for sure.
But
well, and it's like the normal thing where like the heads of the cult are, and it's like a pyramid scheme,
everybody,
right? Yeah, they get to reap the rewards of the organization, so to speak, and that's not the focus of the movie at all. It's just sort of like this is the world that she's coming from.
And I just love the one scene. It's just like they asked Jesse Plemons, like, who do you want to sleep with? Willem Dafoe or Chau, or however you say her name. And he's just like, I want Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, he had a thing with Willem Dafoe throughout this entire movie.
Yeah. Like they have really palpable, great sexual tension with each other.
Yeah.
I want to see them do more movies together.
Shout out to Chau though, because her first two roles are very contained and normal, right? Like, first she's the wife of Jesse Plemons that has been manipulated into the situation, and she leaves as soon as she realizes like this guy's been slipping her abortion pills, which is something we didn't even talk about. Abortion
that's
pills.
Right, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Someone. Metaphysical, whatever the one that the Supreme Court.
Mephistopheles, yeah.
The one that the Supreme Court just ruled on.
Are you 487?
Yeah.
So there was that, and then the second one, she's the wife of the guy that lost his memory that's asking for Kool-Aid. He's really wanted some Kool-Aid, I guess. I don't know, but and then the third one, she's so out, like her performance as like the very performative spiritual wife of Willem Dafoe's character, is just so much more out there, and I like that. I was like, because they could have had her be a third kind of contained character, and it would be like, all right, this is just kind of her thing.
No,
maybe
she's licking people.
Yeah. Look, this third one. All right, the first two, it's pretty standard. We're gonna write you to the script, pretty standard. Just don't worry about it. The third one, you let your freak flag fly.
Yeah.
You're gonna lick everybody in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. So the Margaret Qualley character, and the fact that, like, okay, the person they're looking for, you know, there's
She's
a
played
dead.
before.
It's crazy they made her play twins after she's played. Like, they're like, oh, everyone's gonna play 3 roles. You're gonna play 4 roles. Like,
yeah. Right. And the twin has to be dead. And it's like, oh, well, she was dead, but she was brought back. So that's like, I actually think that was kind of a clever reveal. And then the fact that she's a vet is great. I think that's a good narrative function. A lot of people had problems with the dog being hurt, right? You know, don't kill the dog. That's the dog does not get killed.
I'm just one guy. I'm not a lot of people.
I more than just you were.
I know.
It.
Well, there's an entire website called "Does the Dog Die?"
Yeah,
you can go on there and get a trigger warning if the dog. And I always have to do that whenever. Well, for every Yorgos movie, I've had to do that because
I was worried about blood and cheese and that dog in House of the Dragon. Like, oh my god, he kicked. Like, everyone's like, but the kick is bad. I'm like, yeah, but the dog got kicked. Though. Who cares?
Who cares about the kid? Yeah,
seriously, no one cares about him. Good.
Well,
good.
I mean, every time something happens to an animal in a movie and then something happens to a person, I don't care about the person anymore. I'm like, the animal got hurt.
Yeah.
I do ascribe to that website as well, and I do have difficulty with that kind of imagery. And the problem is contextually, it's part of the story, and I fully understand why it was included, and yet you still have that visceral reaction where you're like, I did not consent.
Well, and it's crazy that I never did until I got a dog. Like, before I got a dog,
before he was just all about dog deaths.
I'm like, does the dog die? I only watched movies that it said yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, what's the other movie we watched? We watched one a while back, but there's a really fucking brutal scene where a dog gets murdered. It was the one we watched with your friend. It was like I think it was South Korean movie.
The Wailing.
Oh, the Wailing.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
so
that. I
fucking hard to
already fugued that one out.
Yeah, but yeah. So
Thanks for the reminder.
I'm only here to just ruin everyone's night every single time.
Apparently so. For 3 years, that's what you've been doing.
I like the 2 Margaret Qualley roles in this, and I like that she's the one that approaches them, which makes it so much fucking weirder. That their approach is in a diner by like a random girl. It's like, I know who you are.
Her dialogue in that scene too is just so like almost Coen Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, like she kind of like does like an info dump, like an NPC style info dump, you know, like, I am this person, I have done these things, this is the job that I do, here are the reasons why your quest should go to this next place.
Here is my sister. I work as an HR. She's a great HR rep. That's what she really is.
Well, you know, okay, you never mind. I was gonna say there's something else she's not so great at, but I'm not gonna. Nope, I'm not gonna say it.
Wait. Now I don't know. Now I want to know what it is.
She's fine in this.
Oh.
Diving into pool, she's not great at.
Well, yeah. I mean, unless your goal is checking to see if there's water in the pool first before diving. Yeah. I mean, I think that.
By the way, that's the craziest way to fucking kill yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That
is crazy. That's like when the CIA is like, oh, the guy shot himself like in the back of the head. Don't worry, like that's how he died. Definitely.
Exactly. He was talking about it. He was talking about it beforehand. Yeah.
He's like, I wonder if I could reach the back of my head with this gun. Those were his last words, and apparently he could.
Sure enough.
The answer was a yes.
The sister tells her too. She's drugged, and the sister is like, "There's no water in the pool. Don't jump in there." And she's like, "I'm gonna do it anyway," and then cracks her fucking head open.
Yeah. So the discovery of how they get to the vet, and then when she finally, lays the hands on RMF, and he actually, comes back to eat the titular sandwich in the mid-credit scene later on. Yorgos. I think it gets across. I like her euphoric reaction, if you will, to the finding her. It kind of tackles what like cloister communities are willing to do to give like make people feel outsized reactions when they do something that's pleasing to the organization. Right, it's just like she's just like absolutely like could not be happier, obviously, right? Because she has like, oh, this is her ticket back in. She's like done the thing that no one else can do, et cetera, and like not doing that is like basically being a complete failure. And I think that's an interesting depiction of that. Again, because it's used in the promotional materials too, and people are just like, I want to see that scene. Where is that scene? Well, and then when you finally get it, you're like, oh, I get it. I get why she would do that.
Into it. If she hadn't been able to finally complete it, right? She's both a rape victim now and a fail. Like, it's just the level.
She's been excommunicated, right? For excommunicated for something not even that was her own.
She got drugged before she was raped too.
It was not under her own free will.
Yeah,
by Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriend.
So, but that's what I'm saying is that like the euphoric reaction to her finding, the healer, right, and to having that in her backseat, and like having to be her ticket back and being like, I've done what no one else can do. I'm the best. That kind of like after like being in like the depths of
I'm a brand new bitch.
Just the redemption story. She can now redeem herself.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get to. Is that like from the depths of rejection to like the absolute hallowed halls of euphoria, and I think that's actually very well earned, and maybe the most earned situation in the entire triptych.
Which is why the next part of it enraged me so much. I think during and
that's the dog story. No.
That's why the cruelty is the point.
I was so mad fucking leaving the theater. I was like, the part of my body was just kind of like shaking. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's very rare. It's very rare to get like it both kind of in awe of something of a scene in a movie and that triggered by something. And I was pissed. I was so mad at that. Because I saw it coming, and I was still like.
There should be a meme of this Yorgos like looking smug, going triggered.
And this is the one time that I wouldn't lie, and I would say yes, I am triggered. Yorgos.
Didn't like Kinds of Kindness triggered much. It's him looking like smug as possible.
Checkmate.
Checkmate, liberal. No, but it's so like the reason why it works is like you do get into like, oh yeah, I can see where that would be so euphoric, and I can see where that'd be such a big deal, and like it is a redemption story, and it is like something like she's been like working for her entire time, and it is real, and she's the one that found her, and like however she's got there, she's like climbed the mountain, right, and she's like riding high.
Well, and
until she's not riding high.
There's this level of struggle to it too, right?
And that's what we'll hold on for, because I was gonna say, but to me the cruelty is the point in this movie.
Yeah, of course.
And that is the cruelest thing, is that it takes you on that ride.
That the high point of that though, right? Like the high that you get to through that euphoria.
Yeah.
First, she has to like not only just the rejection of her getting kicked out of the cult, she has to actually drug the girl herself. Measure her titties. You watch her measure Margaret Qualley's titties. Measure her like body. Put her on a scale. Drag her. Put her in a wheelchair. And then you get to the fucking part where she has to lay her hands, and she's so drugged out. She must have given her like 10 times the dose or something. She can't speak.
She can't even do it.
Yeah. So her hands are like this, and she has to get her hand onto there. She can't talk. She's trying to. So for that resurrection to actually occur, it's like one of those things where you're like, wow, like you watch her literally drag this body.
It's a journey, right? Where it's just like, and again, not without endorsing any of the tactics or any of the motivations, but it's something.
You feel very conflicted about the fact that you feel so.
You're like, yeah. Wait a second. What am I cheering for?
Kidnap. Yeah. And she's also in the car bringing her to like a boat that you realize she's going to be essentially a chained up circus freak on the boat.
Exactly.
Like Willem Dafoe to get more money. That's all it really is.
Yeah. He's going to be basically enslaved.
Find the Messiah and exploit the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And it really asks you to invest in this character who's having this huge journey, but in this framework that we constantly people keep saying the Coen brothers keeps coming into the conversation. And I feel like there's a real schlemazel kind of story here where the character is unlucky. And, do you want to watch a schlemiel story? Yeah. Not everyone does. But literary, there's a reason these exist.
Not just unlucky, though. Fraying like literally you're watching something.
Yeah, on the ragged edge of everything. Sure. Yeah.
With 1 foot into one world, 1 foot into the other world.
And that's where it would be completely unearned, this next part that happens, if the entire time it wasn't set up that she is the most aggressive driver possible with the most like ridiculous move. Like the entire time you're like, you are pulling into a hotel. You're not at the Indy 500. Like, what are you doing? But like, that's what she does.
Also,
and so that's why it's earned, and that's why.
There's even the foreshadowing in the first vignette.
Yeah,
her bad news
That's
bitch
true.
thing, right?
Yeah.
The credits roll because each time the credits roll differently, right? Like, so you're watching her dance as the credits roll, and then just as the credits get finished, you realize it's still going.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, something.
Right, like you're like, because you're like, oh, it ended in a happy ending, kinda, I guess, and then you're like, oh no, just you wait.
She's talking to Margaret Qualley, and she's like, we're gonna be there in 2 hours. Margaret Qualley is still kind of in a coma in the bottom of the fucking car, pretty much, like looking back up at her. She's like asking all these questions, and she keeps looking at Margaret Qualley. You're like, look at the road, bitch, look at the road, look at the road. Like,
I know.
I got water for you. The water's back here,
bitch.
Let me go get it.
Away.
Looking at her more and more, and that's when I was like, oh, this car. They've been leading this up to a car crash. Like either everybody's gonna die or Margaret Qualley is gonna, something's gonna happen. I knew that a car crash was coming, and of course she goes right at the truck, swerves, hits the fucking building, and she's left unhurt completely. But Margaret Qualley is thrown out of the car and smashes her fucking like her sister does when she smashes her head into the pool. Margaret Qualley is soul breaks.
That's right.
Again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Through the
I'm
windshield.
not sure if it's because of the cameras they have to use to do those kinds of scenes, but I almost feel like it's impossible to not notice you're about to be in a car crash scene. The sequence of cinematography always is like, it's kind of fun.
But I don't know. In my head, I was just like, nah, don't do this. Come on, don't do this. Don't do this. And then she's looking down at her more and more, and I'm like, watch the road, watch the road, watch the road.
Yeah. Well,
and it feels like the longest 2 minutes of the film.
But I mean, the thing that actually reminded me more than the Coens was something like Breaking Bad, where we're just like, because you're like, yeah. Wait a second, what am I cheering for?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to. I shouldn't be cheering for these people.
Yeah,
like,
shit. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's like, and you're left with or Sopranos or something. Like there's plenty of examples.
Plenty of questionable protagonist stories.
But like the idea that again, you get the like, oh, cool, something ended happily, but it's still like messed up, and then you're like, oh no, and then it's sort of like the only where there is to go is like, okay, what would be the worst thing that would happen in this scenario? And it's like, okay, that's what happens, and that's the actual end. And congratulations, everyone, you made it through the movie.
You get one more thing about cut sequence where it's just Yorgos.
What's the first thing he does after he gets resurrected? He goes and eats a sandwich, which is the name of it seems like a great sandwich. Apparently, that's a notable New Orleans restaurant as well.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, it is. I went to New Orleans for my honeymoon, and it's a debris sandwich. It's very good. You should have it.
The Euphoria though that maybe he did watch Euphoria before making this. But no,
I tried to choose another word just for that exact reason, but it was the correct one.
Euphoria at the top of the fucking thing that you feel is the opposite of what you feel at the end of the first one, where he's going around and running the fucking RMF over and over again, and finally he gets back and he's back with his fucking in his cuddle puddle or whatever, and they're hugging up on him, and his face is just like, what the fuck have I done? Like, where does this person go from here? And you're left with this like real conflicted feeling about all of it, obviously, and like
because he has to live with the decisions that he's made, basically, which is more or less surrender, right? Like I'm surrendering to this situation because it's clear to me that I'm not going to be able to do any better, and I guess this is what I want. Shrug.
Yeah, it's really pathetic given the like modicum of chance to decide anything on his own. He just absolutely crumbles as a human being, which is like, I think that you keep saying it's about cruelty, and I feel like we're looking at all these humans having all of these really human experiences, and the big theme is how cruel we constantly wind up being.
Yeah. In different ways, right? And that's the dying factor.
And the mask of kindness that we try and put around ourselves.
Not even cruel with a purpose, right? Like his cruelty to running fucking the guy over and just going around and around and around is like he couldn't think of anything else to do. Like, you're not left thinking that the cruelty is with any point. Just as Margaret Qualley.
No, it doesn't have to be malevolent. That's what people normally think of.
As a result of his failure as a human being to take responsibility for his own life, that he kills another human being.
But what I'm saying is like, there's a certain kind of cruelty where it's like the cruelty of the universe rather than the cruelty of with purpose, right? And this movie leaves you at the end of it feeling
or is it the schmozzle?
Feeling like a lot of the stuff that is the most cruel in this movie happened without purpose. I mean, you understand why, but like it's like a universal philosophical cruelness rather than like a movie where it's the like whatever conservatives try to make some kind of like movie that clearly they're just making out of spite and every character is cruel. You're like, well, this is you feel some type of way about this. The cruelty of this is omnipotent, I think.
It's more of a like humans are cruel, like a just general, not these particular characters, but it is a commentary on humanity. That's what I think I'm saying.
Yeah, and in a way that you don't see depicted as often, and certainly not as brazenly.
Well, humans are cruel, and the universe is cruel. Like
yeah.
Animals, however, aren't cruel.
I don't want to.
They don't share the lamb. Come on.
And I don't want to tangent too hard before we go on to the letterbox one-liners, but I do think that, Forrest, you brought up a really interesting point when you were talking about being a writer as a teenager and wanting to experiment with these kinds of stories and being told what you were told. And I want to like throw that to you to tell that story. I don't want to tell your story.
Well, no, it's just when I was a kid, I was always like really annoyed that if there was a hero's journey, the hero would do whatever it was at the end of the thing, and then the story would be over, and it would be very predictable. And I was like, why can't my story, like if I was going to be a writer, I'd want my stories to either kill off the main character, they wouldn't do whatever it is, and it would just fizzle out. And I felt like that was more realistic or more. And I remember teachers just always saying like you can't tell those kinds of stories because the reader or whoever will be just so enraged or like annoyed by the fact that you've wasted a bunch of their time that they have this like visceral reaction. Nobody will ever want to read what
they'll make an open letter to your main character.
Yeah, like nobody will ever want to read what you've written because obviously you've just wasted a bunch of time. People fucking hate that, and they'll hate you as a writer. And like I remember getting that advice to be like, well, I don't want to have the rules of some kind of rules put down on my thing. And I think it was part of my like. I have like oppositional defiance disorder. So
apparently, so does Yorgos. So,
but I would write stories. I would constantly write stories where the main character would die, or they wouldn't complete whatever they wanted to do, or there would be this thing that happens at the end, and it would just fizzle out. And I was like, that's how stories should be. So it was very funny to hit the end of this and become completely enraged that I feel like my time has been wasted for all this time investing in the episode character. Yeah. Like, oh, that's what.
Oh,
you had a hero's journey. You had your own circular journey.
Yeah, you had a hero's journey about the hero's journey. Fantastic. It's meta-contextual. I love it. All right. So, Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the movies they love, maybe the movies they didn't love, the movies that they spent an extraordinary amount of time talking about a certain person's dong. Who knows? Everything is, it's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Of course, all this is best expressed succinctly. Keep it short. For the purpose of this show, we collect them all together, and we put them on screen, react to them, and that is what this is. These are Letterboxd one-liners for Kinds of Kindness. Forrest, let's roll them. Nurse, Yorgos got out again.
So everybody that was like a fan of Yorgos, I mean, I consider myself a fan of Yorgos, but like everyone that's been a fan for a long time, a lot of the reviews were titled things like Yorgos is back in his freak era, or like Freak Yorgos is back, or like Yorgos is like, it's just like they're hailing the return of like one of the freakiest directors of the modern era, right? Like,
but was Poor Things really that much of an outlier? I didn't feel like it was. I mean, I feel like
you'd be amazed, Conan. For people who are not film buffs, people are like, "What the hell is this debauchery?" Like, oh my god.
But I mean, for Yorgos, that was a Hollywood movie, so that makes sense. I
don't.
Fans...
Yeah, I don't think that it's that it was an outlier. No, I think that for his own style of things that he's been doing for a long time, he feels like that movie was an outlier, right? Like the people that really, because a lot of people really got into him with Dogtooth.
Sure.
And they expected like a very specific kind of film from him. And it's not that all of his films have been pretty different, but they've also become more and more Hollywood and Americanized and like.
Well, it's been, it's definitely Poor Things is less cruel of a film, but again, the cruelty is the intention in this. So that's. It's just interesting to me that for some, like it doesn't feel like Yorgos Lanthimos should be a mainstream director, but because it's like if you actually watch this movie, it's like why do I mean, I love them, but like, how is this in the mainstream? I don't understand. I'm a pleasant surprise, but like, yeah, I mean, he's a weird director.
Yeah.
I
I think when people say that like Freak Yorgos is back or whatever, they're saying it very very like in like not I don't know. I had a word that I was going to use and now I forget what it was, but it's like they're saying it affectionately. I guess they're saying like, "Oh, our boy is back. He's back in his like freak era." Because people really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I guess so. Basically, did one continual eye roll for the whole film, but yes, I had fun.
my biggest eye roll was when literally her shoes didn't fit, and I literally said like, "Come on, man!" Like,
okay, Cinderella.
It was just like, oh really? Like, oh really? She's having trouble stepping into her shoes again. Come on. Like,
Another addition to the Jesse Plemons plays a weird cop cinematic universe.
Yeah. Now that you pointed out.
Yeah.
He's not capable of being like a regular cop, but neither is Willem Dafoe. Maybe that's why they're like a father and son.
He both has resting cop face and cop eyes too.
Yeah. Cop eyes.
The weird thing is he had the cop mustache in the film and
the one where he wasn't a cop. Yeah.
Yes, very
That's
true.
Right. Yeah.
I liked that his little porn stash in the first one was like his like the one decision he kind of could make was like, oh, I'm gonna have a mustache in this one.
Right. Always some white dude being like, "Can I show you a video?" And it's him fucking a girl in a vagina. Like, bruh, just let us eat.
I feel like that guy is speaking from experience.
It would be good. Yeah, it's again. I like the scene.
I promise, my wife is missing. No, you showed me this is the 6th. You don't even have a wife. This is the 16th video you showed me of you just fucking a girl. No, I promise, this is my wife. She's missing.
No. This is her. This is it. This is the one. Took finger food to a new level.
That's an Andy ass review.
True.
Nothing
I
much to
actually
say
went
here.
through and complained about the seasoning of the finger food, but
all right, so it's you but less annoying.
What a show! 3 years of this. All right, moving on. Willem Dafoe was truly Willem Dafoe in this.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I'm just looking for a Willem Dafoe.
Second one, he was pretty low key. But anyway, man, if I had a nickel for every time Willem Dafoe and Jesse Plemons kiss in this film, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
2.5 stars.
Chemistry. Their chemistry is so fucking. And then even in that interview where Willem Dafoe's cracking up, Jesse Plemons is like patting him on the shoulder, asking him if he's okay, but his mic is off. Like, they have that level of chemistry in real life too. Like, that's crazy. I just
I want to see them do something else together. Like I'm primed for this.
I want to see them fuck right now.
Well, you have to get invited for dinner, and then his wife has to go.
You got to see a couple of videos. You got
done.
That's the real reason though why that's the real reason why the dad hates him in the second story. The dad fucking hates him so much in the second story. The dad's like, yeah, we fucked it. It wasn't that good, and he keeps trying to show the video around.
There you go. Wish I could have sat in the car ride home with the mother and son who watched this a few seats down from me.
Okay, this movie feels like you're watching it with your mother, even if you aren't. So that is hell.
Can I also add that they have the tag "Time the Edible Perfect"?
I like the idea of a mother and son who watched Poor Things, thought, okay, this is like maybe right on the edge of something I should be watching as a mother and son, and then they went to this.
Right. It's would have been interesting. Crazy. Lost a star because Dafoe didn't show his rat.
Aww.
They got so close to it.
Ratatouille.
I just love that he uses the term rat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's so big it controls him.
I kept saying that he should have shown his hog, and I was like, we want to see the hog. Show the hog. They get so close to literally, but then he takes off the Speedo and then crosses his legs. And I was like, really? You're not going to show us the hog? Show us the hog, Willem Dafoe. Show us the hog, Willem the hog.
You heard what happened the last time we tried to show it, right?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see it.
If you want the full blow off, you're gonna have to pay more. It's gonna cost $30 million to make this movie.
Every time we talk
the
about
director's cut, and it'll be 6 hours long.
Every time we talk about Willem Dafoe on this podcast, Andy brings up the story about his dick. Literally every time Willem Dafoe's come up about this. So in this, we were about to see his dick. No, but I'm saying we were about to see his dick, and I was like, I feel like I put so much I put so much energy now.
3 years of work finally coming to a culmination.
But then they did show his dick, and I was like, really? You're gonna not show me the monster hog?
Yeah, I want to be confused.
You were more obsessed with wanting to see a penis than I am, Forrest, and that's saying something.
Just this one. And because it's weird, and because they say it's fucking freaky looking. I don't want to see it because I'm like, oh, it's gonna look great. I think it's gonna look like some kind of horrifying monster. And I want to see the monster.
You want to see he's decapitated.
I also saw I've told the story a million times, but when I was driving past, Willem Dafoe used to own a house down the road. Like he used to own this crazy rubber house. And one day we were at the market down the street from where my house is, and I saw Willem Dafoe making out with his fucking wife against the car. Like they were really going at it. And my dad was like, "That's Willem Dafoe," and honks the horn really loud. And Willem Dafoe jumped.
Rubber house?
And did you roll down the window and say, "Show me the rat"?
The rubber house, yeah.
All right. Well,
literally, Willem Dafoe's house was like he sold it, but it's literally called the rubber house. Like that's where he lived.
Is it made of rubber?
The world may never know. From now on, if I ever accomplish something insane, I'm just going to have a crazy little dance break like Emma Stone does in this.
Oh, yeah, you should be doing that already. Highly recommend.
It's a good plan. No notes.
No notes. 10-10.
Those are Letterboxd one-liners for Kinds of Kindness. Please follow the show, our Letterboxd HQ account at Movie Night Extra. You can follow us along for all the episodes that we do. We have stories of all those with lots of great extras and things along those lines. And you can find out about Willem Dafoe's rubber house, apparently. So that's on Letterboxd. You can get the absurdist appraiser here at Always Flacco. He is logging not only all the stuff that we cover on here, but sometimes he does the background research. Like he did a big Yorgos deep dive in regards to this one, and that's always interesting and cool. He is the absurdist appraiser. I am the bespangled cult leader at Conan Neutron. Follow me for the Criterion Challenge, the Film School Dropouts Challenge, the Highbrow, Midbrow, Populous Fair, all that good stuff. Watching all of those things, you can chime in, opine in with me anytime you want for that. At right about now, too, is the rad motherfucker. Really? Okay. J. Andrew World watching the weirdest stuff. So you don't have to. Or maybe so you can. Not for me to
rad motherfucker.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't say it with enough authority.
No, you said it with a hard R.
Yeah, there's no R's in there.
Okay.
Except for the one it starts with.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Fine. Follow Andy if you want to see whatever he's doing. Not unkind. Christina down there. I'm Christina on Letterboxd, logging stuff when she deigns to feel like it. At no other time will she do so. Do not ask. KT. Don't even ask. Don't even ask. KT is at Movie Runtime. She is logging stuff when that is cross-posted from other accounts, right? I mean, it's
logging stuff when it's on Letterboxd. Sometimes I watch shit that isn't on Letterboxd. Like We Are Lady Parts wasn't on Letterboxd, even though it's a Peacock show. So whenever I watch something and I'm talking about it on Peacock, I am also Letterboxd.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, there you go. That's the Letterboxd stuff. Andy, takes away with plugs, why don't you?
Wait. So I wanted to say the rubber house thing. So, all right, the rubber house was built in 1981 for choreographer Eugene Loring, although he died shortly after the project was completed. It was designed by Tom Pritchard, a landscape architect, covered with gray-black neoprene sheetskin, a material usually used for the flat roofs of industrial buildings.
Oh,
so that's what the photo says about his rubber house.
That makes so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rubber house.
And he would have these parties where like everybody would come to the Willem Dafoe's rubber
bounce
house.
off the house.
Do we have an ad first?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please do those YouTube things like comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And of course, the big ask is to watch the video to the end. You get to hear the dogs barking, but you also get to hear that great Conan Neutron song. That's right. Yeah. So it's a good trade-off. That allows other people on YouTube to find our content. So it's a fair trade. It's a fair trade. Do that stuff.
Yes, we get something and you get entertained. Thank you.
Exactly.
It's fair trade, it's organic. It's farm to table.
If you're over on Twitch, do the Twitch thing. Throw us a sub. If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. Doesn't cost you anything, but actually does help out our channel. So if you can do any of that stuff, please do that. Find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and now TikTok. So you can find all of our content wherever. Please say hi to us wherever you find our content. Wherever you like to follow me.
Except if you watch that video that's on that's online and that certain website where it's me and my wife and my officer best friend and his wife, and if you see me on that website, don't say hi.
That's definitely Patreon content.
Yeah. And then
can we please watch the video?
OnlyFans, but yeah.
Come on, just 1 minute of the video, just 1 minute of the video, man. Come on, I want to see that video, man.
Which we are showing that video in our Discord. No, we're not. But we have in the past shown other movies, done watch parties. Not like that.
I feel like that deserves a distinction. But
yes, we've watched other films that we've been, covering or related to what we're covering in our Discord. So please join us over there, and we get to have a lot of fun there. Conan is over there.
Yes,
yes, he's got Platonic Reversal written all behind him, which is his great podcast. If you're really into music and you're not listening to it, what are your life choices? I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
but come on.
But I'm going to shame you nonetheless. Let's see. This last week, Deep Tunnel Project. So I had the guys from Deep Tunnel Project on. That was great. It was a very good conversation. That's coming out to the free feed on Monday. Patreon.com/Platonic Reversal, $1 a month. Advance access. You get episodes sooner.
Deep Tunnel Project. What is this? Crown Heights?
Steve Bartek, Boingo Boingo, coming back later this month. So in 2 weeks, we get to do part 2 of that conversation. So that should be really good. Who's next week? I think it might be Nick Six from Upright Forums. I'd have to check. Bunch of other stuff coming up in August. Anyway, never been a better time to subscribe to the show and or kick in on the Patreon. So please check that out.
Yeah.
Did we say after party? Did we make a after the show? We'll be doing an after party.
I'm down. This is.
Oh no, we're doing it. I'm just saying. Did we tell everyone that we're doing it?
I guess you just told them now.
Yeah.
You want breaking news? We get breaking news.
I think I also skipped over our Discord. Not our Discord. That's what I did.
You did mention the Discord.
I forgot our Patreon. Which
is where the after parties are going to be located after the after parties. And I realized you skipped it, which is why I said, "Oh shit, we should tell people we're having an after party."
Yeah, which is why I just realized I missed our Patreon. So if you have money and want to give it to us, please do. You can do that over at Patreon.
What a pitch! Yeah.
Yes, but that allows you to get access to our past after parties.
If you have any money lying around, I could really use that money.
Yeah, I got to buy those thumbs.
I was pretty proud of myself for thinking about in the chat just being like, "Hey Andy, can you do me a favor?" And I was just waiting for you to say something, but I moved too fast on it. And then I was like, "Can you provide me with your thumb and cauliflower?"
And he happened to be cooking at the time, and he just showed a picture of him cooking. That was good. That was good shtick that the people that enjoy this show will never see.
Yep.
I did actually tweet it out saying getting ready to talk about kinds of kindness, and with the hashtag "if you know, you know."
Okay. What's next, Andy?
Yeah, you have a band called.
I do know that. Yes, I did know that. Thank you for asking, though. Yeah, Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Also, on all the other things that we don't see a dime from. You can get all the music there. Adult Prom, the Split with Lung is the most recent one. There's a new record that's done. It's not out yet. We're playing in Detroit in October with God Believes. There's other stuff to announce, but it's not going to be probably for another couple weeks or so. But there's going to be some West Coast stuff and then some East Coast stuff. So,
yeah, and the shirts there are basically like whatever sizes are available.
Whatever we got left, man.
Whatever. But if you are in a shirt, go check it. Now's the time to get it because they'll be gone.
Yeah, a couple of them are not going to be remade at least for a while. So
it's crazy how good your fucking shirt game is though. For fucking Platonic shirts, like I don't know, it excels more than I think.
You mean Secret Friend shirts? I don't think there's any Platonic shirts.
Yeah.
Unless there's bootleggers, in which case I need a piece.
Gonna be threatening them like
I have talked about it, Meg. I was like, would people wear a shirt of a podcast? I don't know. Probably, maybe.
Some people do, yeah.
Every time I've seen somebody wearing a shirt of a podcast, it's their podcast.
Oh yeah.
And they're on somebody else's podcast, and it's
I have a How Did This Get Made shirt.
Okay, all right. Caterwauld's over, but if you follow the Caterwall YouTube channel, there's a full set videos that are coming out for a lot of the bands that your host here, Forrest, has been good enough to put together. So
the Ganser one's fucking crazy.
It's really good. Yeah. So if you were there and you want to relive it, or if you could not go and you want to see what you missed, then...
Or you're just hearing about it now for the first time.
Or if you don't know what any of that stuff is and you've just been disassociating the entire time the plugs have been going on, then, hey, here you are. Subscribe to a different thing that is not this show. There you go.
I'll take accountability for fucking up. Andy was doing all right until I kind of fucked up the plugs by bringing it back to the Patreon.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair enough. I did skip it. It's my fault. I
believe that's it for me. I have a couple other cool things coming up, but nothing I can share with folks yet. So,
all right.
Mea culpa.
Christina,
Max culpa.
You're over on Twitch at Cosmopolitics.
Yep.
I know things have been. You got a new computer, so you're going to be back on tomorrow, right?
That's right.
I'm gonna be back Sunday because I'm gonna be done with this one dog saying job tomorrow, and I'm gonna have to bring all my, re-download OBS and add my scenes. It's just gonna be a lot of tech work for me tomorrow, and just adjusting the RAM on the PC. But I got people helping me out with that. But I'll be streaming Sunday. It's gonna be Sunday fun day. We've been watching old Late Show, Craig Ferguson, full blown episodes. People love that. People are like, yeah, because I my sister brought down some weed seltzers for me to drink, and I'm gonna have one on Sunday and have fun, have a lot of fun because I get so giggly. She's like, they're 10 milligrams. I'm like, 10 milligrams of THC is nothing. I'm like, I had a hemp edible that was 420. That did more damage to me than these drinks with real weed in it.
And being on Movie Night Extravaganza.
Ooh. And the question, if they are manufactured by the company Theory Wellness, they contain a type of THC that is nano available, which means that it will permeate your, it'll get into quicker in 5 minutes, and it doesn't matter what's in your stomach.
Oh, I thought that meant that you were going to play songs in your head for the entire time. And
yeah. Well, also that.
It's nano available.
It's nano available. It's bioavailable in a way that doesn't need to bind to a lipid in your stomach. It's very fun.
Mindy drank one of those CBD drinks or whatever right before our set. Apparently, I didn't know this at the time, but she was like, yeah, it kind of hit right when we started playing. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I didn't notice anything. I was like, hey, you've been on tour. I couldn't even tell.
If you don't utter the magic phrase, I don't think this edible is doing anything. It won't hit.
I tried that seltzer. We were all sitting around at the end of the fucking.
Was it THC?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. THC H2O. That's right. I forgot about that.
H2O. Yeah, I tried one of those. And
we came up with a jingle for it. I forgot about it. Yeah.
Okay, don't give it away now. You sell that one.
I know. No, we'll save it for the after party.
Yeah, behind the paywall.
Maybe I should take that other edible before the after party.
Do it.
Yeah.
I like that poor Letterboxd reviewer who took it before Kinds of Kindness. Jesus, sounds like a bad time to me. I don't know.
Well, all right. Imagine you watch Poor Things and you're like, oh, this is because Poor Things is a great fucking movie to take an edible and watch. And then you go see this.
Babylon was a good movie to take an edible and watch.
But imagine you do that and then you're like, this is gonna be just like that, I hope. And then you take an edible and then you watch Kinds of Kindness and you're like,
yeah. This is taking an edible and see Bo.
I'm in a literal nightmare.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want to support Christina over there, she's at patreon.com/cosmopolitics.
Yep.
Oh, so you remember her Patreon.
Yeah, well, I try. And then KT,
you certainly do, Andy. Yes.
You don't have a Patreon, but you have a lot of other things going on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the plug? That's it.
Where's the mine?
3 years. 3 years you've been doing this. 3 years.
It's like that meme that's like you, not you. You know, in the person of the center of it. So it's like, thank you for subscribing to Patreon, not you.
There you go.
You can
But yeah, you
support
got
me by
to-
going and subscribing to my TikTok or my YouTube channel, which are both movie runtime. You can also follow me on Instagram, but that's gonna be a little deadly creature because I'm a pain in the ass and I won't change that one.
Have you looked into TikTok? Apparently at 1,000, I think, lets you stream from.
I can stream live, yes.
Yeah.
Looking into this.
I'm just curious. I'd be very curious about like the numbers for that because I've heard there's some pretty high numbers that people get from.
You did stream live on Instagram, didn't you?
I've streamed a couple times. I'm live on Instagram and live on YouTube on TikTok. It is very strange because you'll just turn it on and you'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you about my top 10 favorite Blumhouse films," and all of a sudden it'll be like 500 people are like, "Yeah, what do you got?" And it's very, very weird.
I don't know who you are, but I'm excited for this one.
And the oscillating numbers. So it can be a lot of people all at once just kind of trickling through and being like, I don't know, how do you make a lemon meringue? Nah, next person.
Didn't that happen to one of our streams where we had like a bunch of people come in? All of a sudden, I forgot.
That was the Oscar stream. That was when we were doing the Oscar.
Yeah.
But it is pretty funny to like imagine like the people start just judging like whether they're gonna like your movie picks based on your appearance. They're like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like that shirt, so I don't know if I'm gonna like what movies you like. And it's like, dude, what is happening right now?
The pressure is real. But
Well,
yes,
I
if
think
you wanted to support me, I don't take Patreon money. I take subscribers right now.
The TikTok thing. I mean, you do really well, but like in general, right? Like the app is.
Oh yeah, looks good on you. Yeah.
Well, no, the app is no, but I'm saying
I'll
TikTok
take
as
it,
an app,
bitch.
right? Like the thing that gets the most attention, I think, is like when you have the background behind stuff and you kind of are able to like edit it in like that certain way, and you're able to like that kind of stuff. So the idea of streaming on it is kind of interesting because it's like it's really it seems like it would be pretty hard to do that live.
Once you reach a certain number of subscribers, you can also then do it on your desktop, and it becomes significantly more like what we're doing. And in fact, I could use StreamYard to do my TikTok live, but I need to have a minimum number of subscribers, and that threshold is 10,000.
Well, I know how to like in StreamYard at least there's a thing where you can put in a custom key, and that's how you do it with TikTok. But
exactly.
But I've tried that. I've tried that with other. It's not always the best with StreamYard and that. I mean, maybe the interface is different on those but it's like I've tried doing it with a custom key before, and it's like it just feels it's not synced the right way. I don't know.
Yeah, well, TikTok itself also has a desktop version that is way more robust than what you get on your phone for obvious reasons. But because it's so robust, they don't give that to just everybody. You have to earn it. There are a lot of like little tiny levels, like a video game.
You have to get enough Chinese social credits.
I just earned the ability to do branded content where like if I want to, I can try and make a video for Jack Link sausages. And like, okay. It's a weird application. Yeah, right? So
Jack's Link sausages, the perfect sausage to eat while watching movies.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, these are movies. These are movies that I talk about.
Reviews are in Jack Link sausage. No, anyway. Yeah, so those are my things. I also do a podcast called What If I Don't Like It. Conan is about to come on, and we're going to record an episode together where he's going to take on the role of making me watch a movie that I thought, I don't know.
It'll be like this. It'll be like, oh my God, we're switching roles.
I literally went to go do that and was holding it down just as you did that.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that.
We have been doing this show a long time.
Freaky Friday. We're going to watch
Yeah, looking for that. With Network, one of my favorite movies of all time, which you have
never seen Network?
What?
Oh. That's crazy.
Okay.
And if you want to know why, you'll have to listen to the goddamn
You'll have to listen to the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
There's
know
a
you
good
had
reason. I'm sure.
I didn't know you had like a reason. I just allow movies that.
There's always a reason in part one. And I just did an episode with a director friend of mine, Jacob Davidson, and we did Tampopo, which is a Criterion Collection movie that is fantastic. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend it. I'm going to be on the Letter Hack with Matt, who is in the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Doing a live one on I believe it's the 15th, but I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I'm going on I guess I'm going on Wednesday on
Left past 10?
Yeah. I guess they're gonna have me on.
Cohen's like, I feel left out now.
I exactly. Like, I don't know. I guess everyone just assumes I'm busy. I don't know. I mean, I am.
Are busy,
Yeah, well, still nice to be asked. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, easy to let her actually hear about it, ask you. You're like, no, but thanks. Feels good.
Oh, and
I'm
one more
probably
thing.
good right now.
One more thing that I'll be doing that I know Conan is going to think is exciting. I'm going to go on a friend's podcast to talk all about RoboCop.
Hell yeah.
Hell
What is
yeah.
it like? Is this podcast called like the greatest cop movies of all time? Like
just his greatest cop movies. It's a friend of mine off of TikTok. His name is Zoe, and he does rewind films and older films, and this is one of the ones that we've picked. I did really love that documentary, RoboDoc.
Yeah.
I even got a shout out by Eastman, who is the director on Instagram. Said thanks for reviewing the film, so that was exciting.
I mean,
I'm the one that found it first. Jeez, where's my shout out?
I mean, my PFF is
tell people
Adam
to say
McKay
his
now,
stuff. Make a
so-
whole video.
I didn't do it in video form. I told a ton of people. I personally messaged a bunch of people. Go watch this thing.
You
It's
should
amazing.
CC him next time.
I say CC him, but CC
Oh.
that'd be amazing. Just be like, hey, you've sent 200 emails and you've CC'd me on all of them saying to watch my documentary. I appreciate it, but why did you do that?
It's Backlook Cinema is the name of the podcast. I'll be doing RoboCop. Sorry, I forgot that.
I'm very happy for you. I understand it's a short form video world, and I don't do that. So
I do
long form guy.
I have told 200 people to watch your movie, and I noticed that you've told people thank you, and I have not gotten a thank you. So
I'll slip it into the interview. I'll be like, well, I have to admit, fellow podcaster,
I
what a
do
new
challenge
try.
you to a duel. I do challenge you to a duel because I have not received that thank you.
Exactly. It's fine. I'm happy to recommend things just for recommending cool things to cool people.
It was boss. That is boss.
Yes. And of course, Starwell Foundation. We haven't talked about that. Yeah.
I think KT has the most out of everybody that I do like the intros for. That I have like from the like I think KT is the longest one right now because I just added movie runtime last night.
Yeah.
I'm basically becoming Troy McClure. You might know me from.
Yeah. You're in contention with me, so that means you do a lot of stuff.
I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses. Starwell is still out there available to watch. We are getting ready for doing more in that world. There will be an additional season. I saw the book of all the pins and notes for how the plot lines are continuing forward. It's boss. Yeah, worth your
You're gonna
time.
get a spin-off. They're gonna give you a Starwell Foundation spin-off. And you're gonna be like, you're gonna get a limited series.
Limited event series.
Oh yeah, right. On Stars.
The Starwell Foundation cinematic universe. You're like,
Yeah. And of course, you can catch your new film. We have Ghosts at Home on YouTube.
Oh my god, I forgot about that, Andy. I did. Thank you for saying something. Oh my god, I'm so short-lived. Yeah, my first attempt at comedy is only 5 minutes long. It's a real short amount of your time. Some TikTok videos are this long. And it's a comedy comment on like looking for stuff outside of your house that maybe you have in your house already.
Yeah.
Mom, can we get ghosts? Sorry, we got ghosts at home.
Sit home, Forrest.
Literally.
Mom, can we get?
It had a premiere recently too, right?
Mom, can we get Poltergeist? And be like, we have ghosts at home.
It had a premiere at the Just Scare Me Round 23. That's a collective out in Burbank, California at Blast from the Past, which is a wonderful comic book shop where a group of horror filmmakers get together. It's a collective to help each other keep making experimental films. Jacob Davison, who was just on the Tampopo episode, is from that. There's a little crossover. You can go to my YouTube channel to see other shorts that are part of that collective as well.
Sorry, KT, we have experimental films at home.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, Yorgos, we have experimental films at home.
we got art house at home. Just you got to finish the art house at home before you go out to get art house, right? KT, final thoughts about 1, 2, or 3 of the films that you know.
I think on the overall, I think this film is very, very interesting, especially for me as someone who aspires to be a specifically horror film director and writer. I talk to people all the time who are like, I don't like the genre of horror. I find it difficult to watch. I feel it uncomfortable. I don't know why anyone would want to experience the thing that you really, really love to experience and write about. And I've never understood that. I've just taken that at face value.
Are you doing a seance with Ebert? Roger Ebert, he's like, that's...
You know, if I'll do it live on TikTok, it'll be great. But with this film, where I don't really like to sit in schadenfreude, I don't really like to sit in awkwardness, I was forced to experience literally what I've just described for horror films, but for whatever this is, whatever kind of art house this is, because it's not really a genre film. And even though I didn't like it, I didn't like that experience, I feel bettered for it. And I feel like, wow, this really caused a lot of conversation and a lot of thought. And it's such an interesting film. It is such a capital LF film that I recommend it for people for whom that is good. If you're the kind of person for whom that would offend you or would be difficult for you or is just not what you want as a viewer, this is not going to be worth your time. So I am like two wolves, one with like, man, this was wow, and another one that was like, oh, I really didn't enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Well, how often does something really hit you that viscerally, right? Like,
yeah.
At least that's what I was thinking about. Like how often are you put into a situation? Because there's a lot of things that I like, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, I liked that. That was fun. But there's how often are you subjected to something where just viscerally your body rejects it in terms of filmmaking? I feel it's far more unique than just being like, I enjoyed this one, or like I didn't enjoy this one, or like, you know what I mean? Like it feels like there's something more. There's something tapping into your you know, as a human being, like your consciousness and like psychology and like your experience in terms of this kind of movie that transcends just, you know, sitting in the theater.
Every single filmmaker, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, you should see this movie for the way that it decides to make its decisions, whether you agree with them or not.
Because every single person I would say involved in this is at the top of their game.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like Poor Things came out. Yeah. Like it's all the same fucking people working on it, pretty much, besides the playwright that did the last two scripts with fucking Yorgos. But like these are all people that are at the top of their game that chose to do this, including the actors. I mean, you know, including Jesse Plemons, including fucking Emma Stone, more than anybody right now, I think out there is at the top of her game. Like,
yeah. But you're so right to say that it's very sensory. It's like getting pet the wrong way. Yeah. Like you really feel like, oh, I don't like having my hair go that way.
It's like getting pet with
intense.
It's like getting a pet with a knife, which actually does happen in this movie.
You know, you definitely felt it. It was like a sensory that didn't feel good on a deep visceral level. But how do you make a film that reaches across that fourth wall and touches you like that?
And how do you do it with every sensory at once? Like there's things in this that hit my ears the wrong way. There's things in this that hit my eyes the wrong way. There's things in this that made my body kind of contort in a way that I didn't really, which I think in general, after doing like a deep dive into Yorgos' film, he does that in a lot of his fucking, like Dogtooth is a movie that I feel genuinely unsettled and I don't know, like just more fucked up for having watched too. Like that's another movie that I'm like, this should not have been like I don't feel like I should have watched this, like, or that even that it should have been made necessarily. It's just like it just did something to my, like, I don't know. He does that well, but how many filmmakers can do that? And how many filmmakers could do that both with 250,000 euros and also $15 million? Like how? Like
great point.
So, yeah.
Great point. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's my thought. My thought as a horror director, I thought this was horrific in a way that was not explicitly horror, and I'm impressed beyond.
I kind of found it fascinating to have you as someone that does a lot of body horror too, because that's definitely not my thing, but like it's a popular thing right now, like especially right, like
because loss of autonomy. Yeah, this whole political spectrum thing that's going on right now, the feeling that like there's nothing that you can do to make anything better. That's a common feeling.
Well, which I think Poor Things tapped into the happy side of, not happy, but like, you know, the more strong side of that, or like the, I don't know, like the, you know, she ends up the movie with all of her autonomy, and you're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, go get it, girl. And this
the
movie,
empowered side,
in this movie it takes your autonomy at the end of it, and you're like, this does not feel good. I don't. I feel like a woman in America right now. But yeah, Christina, final thoughts.
Yeah, you know, art can make you feel uncomfortable at times. You're not supposed to be completely comfortable with every single type of media that you consume, whether it's film, news, music, or just, you know, art in general. I mean, this film did make me feel very uncomfortable at times, but I pull through it because I am completely desensitized to just about everything and anything at this point. So this was like a picnic in a way for me. But yeah, I highly recommend. When it comes to filmmakers, if you really, filmmaking these days is you got to push boundaries. You got to really, ruffle some feathers. And I feel like this film really does the trick. And I highly recommend it. And if you have to take breaks in between, if you're going to watch it when it comes to streaming, I highly recommend you do that.
All right. Andy, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that art, an artist tries to say something, and this, I think, successfully does, whether you are ready for it or not. It certainly does. Kind of reminded me of one time I was in college. I was the class was forced to do a contest, and we all knew who was going to win the contest because there's this one guy, just absolutely brilliant artist that was in the class, and so I'm just like, fine, I'm going to make something just viscerally uncomfortable to look at. And I did that, but then whenever you printed it, it looked gorgeous. It was incredible to see. But if you saw it on the screen, it was like the most hideous thing you've ever seen. And in a way, this is a lot like Yorgos, doing something like that, trying to viscerally make you feel uncomfortable. And he succeeded. And that's, art is something that's supposed to say something, but it's just also supposed to say something that, gives you a feeling that. And I think it's so nice to actually see it accomplished in such a great way.
Absolutely. I think Forrest turned into a Yorgos for some reason.
It's a fourth Yorgos.
It's
the coming of the fourth Yorgos, which is the sign of the apocalypse, and how we know we need to wrap this up.
So yeah, I know I'm next. So spoiler alert, everyone. Yeah. Baffling, dark, cold, misanthropic, caustic, and unique in every way. I'll freely admit that I'll always give a little leeway for any director that kind of works outside the mainstream and pushes the envelope a bit. And I think that's Yorgos in a nutshell. I think this film, or set of films, if you prefer, almost dares you to like it. And you have sharp dialogue. It's less funny than I expected, but still very funny. And the humor that is in there is very bleak. I think it's mentioned before that everyone's at the top of their game here, especially Plemons and Stone. Dafoe has just always been the king of the that guy character actor weirdness. I will double down and say that I think that as much as movies are the superior art form, I think that this would be better received, more watched, and more prone to be discussed if it was in some kind of prestige streaming content on just one of the things. So people have more time to absorb and reflect on it. But I know that's not his intent. And you have to take the art for what the intent is as well as what it actually is. I think it's got all the off-putting things I like about a lot of his previous work. And it is just that, unrelenting oddity. But I found it very compelling at the same time. And I actually really liked it. It's one of my favorites of the year.
All right. Well, we're going to hop off and get to the after party in a few minutes. But...
And I think we're gonna maybe announce the movies we're doing the rest of the month, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's also
Amongst
3 years
things.
of us having this channel. So thank you for
Some
tuning
celebrate
in.
with
Thank you
us.
for subscribing. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for appearing. Thank you for all of the things that I could possibly say thank you for. I don't know the list, but
Thanks for coming to the last Movie Night Extravaganza. No kidding. That's not true.